for Jonathan Taylor. There he goes again. 50, 40, down the far sideline. He might do it again. 10, 5, touchdown. I-N-D-Y.
The Indiana Pacers are in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Joseph Newgarden goes back-to-back, wins the 108th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Good morning, everybody. You made it into the second half of the week. We're good with that. More transfers coming to both Indiana and Purdue. More play-in games, almost all set for all 8 teams in the Eastern and Western Conference. Some great work by both of you guys on the Colts all week long, too, as we get ready for a draft coming up here. We got guys who want money here, guys who want money there. It's all college sports. What's going on in the world this morning, James Boyd?
I'm feeling pretty good, and I feel like on top of, pretty much everything else, I'm just getting ready for the draft, 1 week away. You
did a nice piece in The Athletic yesterday where we went through possible draft targets at several different positions. That must have been kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun, but it's also a bit redundant, so I'm almost like, just get to the real thing so we can start figuring out who's for real, who's really coming to town. I know, KB, you might be feeling the same way, but this time of year, I'm like, man, how many times can I not plagiarize myself?
Does it get to be Groundhog Day, Kevin?
First, a good Thursday morning, everybody out there. Thank you for tuning in to the Fan Morning Show. Yeah, week out from the draft. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of an annual April 17th thought, if you will, of let's just get here, let's get some names. And honestly, today, I wouldn't mind a topic of, like, what else besides tight end? I think we've probably beaten tight end into the ground a little bit. So what else? If you're kind of mapping out, all right, what's an ideal Colts draft? What do they, need or should to walk away with? What would that look like?
You've already written a piece within the last week or two about positional needs. Really, it's probably a couple of weeks ago, positional needs and things of that nature. Kevin, as you look through everything that's out there, have you started to kind of hone in on specific players that might be available, 3rd, 4th, 5th round, things like that?
Boy, if I could predict that, I probably wouldn't be here in studio. It's just, obviously there are, some traits that 9 years of Chris Bauer drafts, you have a general idea, but, it's such a crapshoot. I mean, I know people say that a lot, but all it takes is one team to derail your thought process. So plan A, B, C, D, the what-if scenarios. I always go back to, Green Bay had never traded up. The Colts have the card in to draft Clay Matthews, and all of a sudden here comes Green Bay trading up, and boom, look at what Clay Matthews did with the Packers there. And I know every franchise has a million of those stories. So, yes, very much looking forward to next Thursday, and very much looking forward to a little over 36 hours from now when the Pacers begin Game 1.
We're edging closer and closer. We lost another general manager in the NBA last night right after the Kings got eliminated. They parted ways with their general manager. It was mutual, though, James. It's always mutual.
Yeah, I never believed that at all. I guess you have to frame it a certain way depending on who you get the news from, but no one, mutually agrees to give up their job, which is very high-paying and probably a dream gig. So
is he the guy that traded Halliburton?
I believe so, because he had been there the last 5 years.
Yeah. Monty McNair, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, I mean, yeah, we see how that's kind of turned out. The Pacers are a year removed from going to the conference finals and back in the playoffs, and the Kings are kind of in that purgatory of being good enough to kind of be relevant for the play-in and playoffs, but I believe they've got down to the first round, so pretty tough.
There were a couple of games last night. Dallas, of all teams, eliminated the Sacramento Kings last night. And I hate to say this, Mark, because it feels like the Bulls have just been on hard times for a while, and I don't have anything specific against the Bulls organization other than their owner. But it's not going well for Billy Donovan. They got bounced again by Tyler Hero and the Miami Heat.
I hadn't watched a second of Bulls basketball all season long, so yesterday was my first time to watch it. I didn't even last a quarter because I was like, this is horrific. This is the Tyler Hero layup line. What is this defense? So I checked out. I was like, I'll come back in an hour, and then they're down 20. I'm like, all right, well, that plus 410 was a nice value play, but that's going down the toilet.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm kind of done with Billy Donovan with the Bulls.
Yeah, me too.
What? I mean, why? They're just stuck in mediocrity. I mean, I'm not gonna bring up Billy Donovan. Does his wife have a house in Bloomington? And all of a sudden, I forget which coaching cycle that was, where that rumor got real hot. But I feel like Billy Donovan went to the NBA, and everyone has just forgotten about him. Other than he's just been a media. I guess the Thunder had maybe a year or two early on, but outside of that, it's just stuck in the middle.
Well, remember, he left for the Bulls job because he didn't want to do a rebuild with the Oklahoma City Thunder after they traded everybody.
Look how that turned out.
Look how that turned out. So, yeah, not the best evaluator of, like, talent. So not good.
Just curious, James, with no Pacers game and just those play-in games, how did you spend your evening last night? Anything fun, or did you just watch sports again?
Yeah, I mean, sports is usually what I do. I'm the guy who complains. I will say I did turn the Bulls game off. The Bulls stink.
They are bad.
Didn't watch much of that. Started rewatching. I haven't watched it in a while. Better Call Saul. So, yeah, that was pretty much it.
My son and I I think I told you, my son and I just started watching that a couple of weeks ago. We're a couple of episodes in now.
Send James the invite. You guys can do a watch party or something.
I'm sure James wants to hang out with me and my 17-year-old all the time.
Nah, I'm good. That's your son. I don't need that just yet.
See the list of James' excuses. Well, I don't know. I just wasn't feeling great. I think I ate
you see, I
something
can't
today.
use y'all excuses. Y'all have built-in excuses with kids. It's like if you don't go anything, you just say, "Oh, the kids got an activity," and then you're out of it.
It's not an excuse, though. The kids almost always you're starting to find out, Kevin. You got 2 kids in high school that have to be here and have to be there. They're not driving yet.
I have parents who are honest now, and they admit and when they did things. I mean, I'll give you an example. My mom, when I told her, she was like, "Yeah, you used to come over," and kids like, "Oh, my arm hurts." She told me, like, if I ever said, like, "Oh, my arm hurts," she knew I wasn't really that hurt. She's like, "Oh, go stand in the corner and raise your left arm up if your right arm hurts, and let me know when that stops hurting." And then your left arm would start hurting, and you forget about the right arm, and then she would just keep doing that.
That's such an old school parent thought.
Yeah, so that would kill some time.
James is just out of habit now. When things are going poorly, he just goes over the corner and stands and starts alternating arms.
Hey, man, like I said, my parents have taught me the tricks of the trade.
Simon Says.
That would be like me trying to, like, fake sick and stuff. And my mom's like, "All right, let me get the thermometer. I'll be right back. I have to make a phone call." And she knew I would be screwing around. I would, like, put the thermometer under the sink.
Yeah.
She'd come back and she's like, "So you have 110-degree temperature?" I'm like, "I'm dying here."
I'm of the old school, too. My dad would just be like, "Rub some dirt on it. You'll be good. Just rub some dirt on it. It's going to feel good." Now, I miss where you and Kevin, Mark are right now, where I know there's like a battle royale 15 minutes away in your house with the kids. I remember at one point complaining that I was a human jungle gym with 2 kids, but I kind of miss those days now, Kevin.
Yeah, obviously there are, I'm sure, all walks of life from an age standpoint with young kids. You do have a little nostalgia and a little missing of it, but I don't know. Do you really want to deal with bedtime? Do you really want to do the diapers?
I will tell you this, though. There was an impromptu Nerf gun fight for about 5 minutes last
There
night
you go.
throughout the hallways.
That sounds like a fun activity.
Cover the groin and have some fun.
Yeah.
All I know is in my house, I keep one of those 6 guns loaded by my nightstand at any point in time because you never know when you're going to get
Nerf
ambushed.
gun.
Nerf gun. Yes, I said Nerf gun, didn't I?
Well,
Just re-emphasizing.
The audience is always changing.
There goes anybody knocking on the Rickard household door.
No. Just Nerf guns. That's all it is. Just Nerf guns. My wife is not always approving of those either. Sometimes she's like, "You guys going to put an eye out?"
Should I transition to more ammo coming to Purdue and Indiana here in the transfer portal? Is that a smooth transition, or is that not?
If
It's smooth enough.
If it's Nerf ammo, yeah. We're going to talk about that throughout the morning. But boy, big day for both schools yesterday, Kevin.
It's funny. I was watching the Nike Hoop Summit over the weekend. For those unfamiliar with how that works, it's like basically the best high school players in the U.S. versus the best world team. And some of these world teams, I mean, they've been, just loaded with top 10 picks over the years. I was curious, Jalen Harrelson, who's headed to Notre Dame, the former Fishers product, I was curious what he would look like. And there's this little point guard coming off, I shouldn't say little, there's this point guard coming off the bench for the world team who's just throwing passes that, I mean, some of the wildest passes, left-handed passes. He seemingly is doing nothing but passing, and I was in just awe watching him. They're like, "Oh, yeah, he's played with Travion Williams and the Euro League." I'm like, "Oh, wow, this guy's already playing professional basketball over there in Europe." And next thing you know, all of a sudden I see his face pop up on my timeline yesterday. He's committed to Purdue. So, yes, Omer Meyer, I don't know much other than watching him play basketball for about 10 minutes the other night. So, sounds like potentially the point guard of the future here for Purdue. So, outside of that, it's a lot of bio research on these guys. But looks like Indiana, Purdue, a point guard and a wing. Obviously, the Indiana guys, you will expect them to play a little bit more minutes. Certainly, Purdue needed a wing. Liam Murphy, the wing they got from North Florida, probably more of a shooter than maybe a defender per se, but certainly shot it at a very, very high level. And then Indiana helping out. And I think kind of just complimenting what they have. We talked a lot about their shooting that they've added so far. Tatum Connerway, who they got from Troy yesterday, Sun Belt Player of the Year. Probably more of a driver as a point guard, a little bit more of a defender, not the shooter that some of the others have. But, boy, it is so much of just like getting to know these guys and trying to kind of plug in the pieces, especially in Bloomington where it was a total overhaul.
Did you see the Fletcher Lawyer tweet for
I laughed
Omar
very
Mayer?
hard at that.
That was great. Like, Omar's coming. So for those who don't know, The Wire, man, Omar was one of the best characters, I believe, probably in, just TV history. And so for him being that young, I was like, wow, that's a good pull. I
Seems like
enjoyed
a little
that.
bit of an old soul.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I said that was a perfect tweet. There's rarely perfect tweets, but that was one of them.
Speaking of tweets, Mr. Purdue, Todd Meyer, spells it a little bit different. There's already the meme of Oscar Clough coming, and now Meyer, the Oscar Meyer duo for Purdue. Already saw that.
I like it.
That was making the rounds yesterday as well. We got a lot to talk about. We'll get you checked down in a moment here, and we will get you ready to go for a Thursday here. 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
Bulldogs basketball. 2025-26 season tickets are on sale now. Registration for iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse premium seats runs through May 31st. Don't miss Hinkle magic. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
Good Thursday morning to you. Welcome into 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Here's what's happening right here, right now. Big day for college basketball in the state yesterday. Kevin Bowen, Purdue, adding Omer Meyer from Israel, and also a forward, Liam Murphy, who played at a couple of schools. A shooter, a point guard, Matt Painter putting his team together in the offseason. I think
Purdue is over at this point. I don't know. Maybe they would, if I'm going to really nitpick, which, again, I think Purdue should be playing the Final Four next year, could maybe use a little bit of a defensive guy at like 6'7". But outside of that, boy, they went out and they got certainly a big-time rebounder, Oscar Clough. We'll see if the mayor can come in and impact a little bit, just maybe relieving Braden Smith from not having to play 40 minutes a night. And then Liam Murphy certainly adds some shooting off the bench here. So I think for the most part, Purdue has checked the boxes that they wanted to, and there is no reason to put many, if any, teams above them, I think, in any preseason poll.
James Boyd, Indiana, adds a 6'6" forward from North Florida who averaged 15.4 points, 6.8 rebounds a year ago. Josiah Miles, what do we know about him?
When I was looking at Jeff Goodman kind of break down his game, it looks like he's a pretty dynamic scorer when he gets going. Maybe doesn't shoot the three ball as well as other recruits so far, but another guy who can fill it up for Indiana, which struggled at times last season with points. Very obvious in some of those games. It was rough.
Hoping to improve a lot of shooting down there in Bloomington. Meanwhile, NBA, the Indiana Pacers getting ready for game one of their Eastern Conference first-round series against the Miami Heat. That comes your way at 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, airtime 12:30.
Bucks.
What did I say, the Heat? I got the Heat on my head. Go ahead, Mark. Go. Are you too late on that?
In my opinion, that sucked.
It did.
The Heat did win last night.
The Heat, that's where I was going next. I got them conflated. 109-90 over the Chicago Bulls. Also, the Dallas Mavericks eliminate the Sacramento Kings 120-106. So we've got, Dallas and Golden State? No, who do we have coming up on Friday for the Western Conference?
Memphis. Memphis.
That's right, because Golden State won theirs. Come on, Mark. There we go. I'm trying to give you stuff, Mark. So that's what's going on there as we try to whittle down those play-in games. How do you feel a couple years into the play-in now?
I think it stinks.
I'm not thrilled.
I guess it adds some end-of-the-season drama, but, I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's not like I'm appointment television. That's probably too harsh. I think maybe at the end of the year, you have some teams fighting for it, but then I'm like, did really these teams want to even be in the play-in?
You see the records, and it's like 5 games under 500.
Yeah.
You're like, what are we doing here?
It's weird. I think it's kind of like, Dallas is a team had no business being in this part of it. But then, you'll occasionally get the young team that's overachieved, and I'm like, oh, it's kind of cool. They get to experience that. So, I don't know. I'm probably talking out of both sides of my mouth. We do have 2 10 seeds still alive, and if I'm not mistaken, I don't think we've ever had a 10 seed get into the bracket. So tomorrow night, it'll be Dallas and Miami, I guess, are the 2 10 seeds. They will try to become the first to ever wiggle their way into the 1-8 matchup.
Sounds like must-watch TV.
Boy.
I'll be the degenerate watching for sure.
I think I got one more Court of Gold episode. Maybe full swing.
We'll let you report back to us on that one.
I will say, Mavs Grizzlies intrigues me just because Ja, as crazy as he is one of the best players in the league.
I do like watching the Grizzlies. So local connection, and then Ja Morant, yes, is indeed crazy.
Yeah, Desmond Bain with Richmond, I believe.
Shout
Indiana.
out Richmond.
So.
Yeah, Seton Catholic High School.
Baseball last night, Padres over the Cubs by a score of 4-2. The Redlegs also had trouble with the Seattle Mariners 5-3. In that one right there, Toledo Mudhens, they were not enough for our Indianapolis Indians as the Indians win by a score of 5-4. Took 12 innings, but they got it done.
Walk-off in 12 is a wild extra inning game there.
Get your Chick-fil-A nuggets, man.
Got the IU spring game tonight. That is 8 o'clock. I'm fascinated to see what year 2 for Kurt Signetti looks like. Certainly a year to remember, to say the least, down there in Bloomington. Are they here? Is Indiana now a football school?
I think that's the question now. And I'm sure, look, I had little faith when he was talking that talk.
Oh, I had no faith. I didn't even have little faith. I'm like, this man's running his mouth like no other.
But now I'm like, should I just believe everything you say? Because to his credit, everywhere he's gone, he's backed it up.
Tougher Big Ten schedule, still a joke of a non-conference schedule. So, again, IU, 8 o'clock spring game tonight. And I love anything that honors the legend that is Slick Leonard. So the Noblesville Boom I am a fan of. For those that missed that, happened right after our show yesterday. The rebrand of the Fort Wayne, Indiana Mad Ants, now becoming the Noblesville Boom. And so, yes, the man that helped save the franchise, along with his great wife, Nancy Leonard, by all means. By all means. I used to work at Plum Creek Golf Course back in the day. Slick would play with the old farts there. He'd hang around afterwards, waiting for Nancy to pick him up, and enjoyed my conversations with him seemingly daily when I was out there. So I like that.
I still miss listening to him on the broadcast, and obviously came on Mark with our show, about once a week during basketball season.
Yep.
Back in the day. Just such great people, he and Nancy, and it's cool that is happening there. And there's all kinds of sports going on up in that area now. We got the Noblesville Boom. We talked about the Fishers Freight, the Indoor Football League, and the Ignite, the volleyball. They're pulling crowds, James Boyd, up there.
Yeah, I mean, it's always one of the best parts about living in this area is that there's usually some sports going on in some capacity somewhere. And for the thing with a lot of these, minor kind of pro teams, you get a chance to go see some stuff that's maybe more cost effective for you and your household. So I would encourage you to get out there and just enjoy it. Tailor your expectations maybe a little bit, but it's still a good time. And live sports in person is always a good vibe for me.
Yeah, you get a big crowd going too. There's the energy and the flow and everything else. It's always a good time. So lots to do around here, and lots to keep us busy in between playoff games for the Indiana Pacers. So that's what's happening in the world of sports around here right now. Coming up in a minute, we'll talk a little bit more about a big week ahead for Indiana sports fans as we continue 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Happy Thursday to you. If you're just joining us on your way to work, wherever you might be, thanks for taking us along for the ride. Lots of ways you can listen to us. 93.5, 107.5 FM. You can download the app, 107.5 The Fan. You can also listen online at 107.5thefan.com. Lots of ways you can even talk to your smart speaker. Sometimes in the morning when I get up, I listen to Sports Center All Night with Jay Reynolds while I'm drinking coffee and getting ready for the show in the morning.
Respect. I have a question for KB.
Yo.
Did you get dressed in the dark today?
Oh, jeez.
We're missing a button there.
Am I missing a button?
A bit.
Oh, sorry about that.
All right, just
Your fly's down, too.
Man, that's where my eyes first went. I'm thinking, boy, James is so far away. I don't think he could see anything over there. So
I just wanted to see the reaction, man. You gotta let it, Jeff. You gotta let the joke settle, man. You didn't even give him a chance to look down. You just throw a life raft
because he was missing it.
Nah. You can't just steal the thunder. Like you gotta let it simmer a little bit.
We watch Shrek in the Bowen household a lot, and I can just feel the gut. Certainly looks like Shrek right now, and I just busted that button right out of there.
And then you know what? Just consider me a real friend, KB, because I just noticed this. And then as soon as I mentioned it, Jeff's like, "Yeah, you got a button." He wasn't gonna even say nothing. He was gonna let you sit there in the chair with the button missing.
No, I hadn't noticed it until you brought it up. He looked down and it was clear from his vantage point.
I don't know
because of the fold of the shirt. You couldn't really see.
We gotta
button
replay the tape.
missed.
We gotta replay the tape.
I mean, that's some hair around the belly button if we want to paint a better picture for our audience here.
I just wanted not to see that anymore. Is my thing.
Tough. But I would imagine there are more important things to talk about, and we do have a big Pacers game coming up. And I've been listening to the interviews all week. I've enjoyed kind of hearing their perspective on it. And I think also hearing Giannis's perspective as well, like from the other side, because he's talking about how he has to kind of quarterback a younger group that maybe hasn't been there. They're a different version of themselves. And I would honestly say, KB, I'm pretty happy that Chris Middleton isn't on the Bucks anymore. I know they're kind of depleted, and Dame Lillard is the guy who's supposed to be like the secondary star. He's out right now. But just looking back to last series and then obviously this season, Lord have mercy, did he cause some anxiety last year?
One thing I do want to mention before we get into Pacers, Dane Brugler coming up 9:30, one of our favorite guests, 1 week out from the NFL draft. I think arguably kind
looking
of
at the beast right now.
Go-to NFL draft analyst, and we always appreciate Dane's time, so he will join us coming up here at 9:30. I guess we obviously remember it last year, James. No Giannis in that series. Remember, injury took him out of the previous playoffs as well. So you want to talk about some hunger? You want to talk about a highly motivated individual? You would think that would be there. My biggest non-Giannis worry, and it's a stunning worry to me, and I'm always just so confused when I watch the Pacers try to operate when a team throws this wrinkle at them, because I'm like, the Pacers should be good at this. I am worried about how the Pacers look against Milwaukee's zone. Milwaukee will play a lot of zone. And if you go back to New Year's Eve, the Pacers blew a 19-point lead in that game, largely because the Bucks went zone. And what do the Bucks have? They have a lot of size. I mean, their starting lineup, 4 dudes over 6'8". So that's a lot of length for that zone. And I'm just always dumbfounded watching the Pacers thinking they have great passers. They have great shooters. I think that starting lineup has some very highly intelligent basketball players. And yet when teams have thrown zone at them, it's like at times I'm like, wow, they just look like they have no idea what they're doing. So that overall storyline, how much zone do the Bucks throw at them? How much zone can they play? The Pacers want to run, and you want to run off misses. Obviously, the Pacers like to run off makes as well. But if Milwaukee's getting that ball through the basket, it allows them to set up that zone a little bit easier. So that storyline, I think, will be one to keep an eye on. And I know that zone has grown and grown with some teams, probably not the Pacers. All the Pacers have, dabbled in it a little. But there are other teams around the league that play more of it. Milwaukee's one of them. And given the Pacers' struggles with it at times, I would expect to see it.
You know what this sounds like, KB? It sounds like they have not played enough basketball in Indiana, because if they had paid attention to any high school basketball, there's always a zone. There's always a 2-3 or a 3-2 or a 2-2-1 or a 1-3-1, all these zones. So it sounds like Tyrese, and we get some film from some of these 1A schools over to these guys so they can understand how to break it down.
And Jack Butcher got some film from Lagodi that he could fire out there. I get, obviously you were tongue in cheek there, but like specifically with the Pacers, like I think when you do go zone, you can stymie some of that great ball movement and just general pace, I also think you can kind of stymie Siakam a little.
Why do you say that?
Because I think Siakam's game is best suited when, like, it's kind of an isolation post situation.
Yeah, he's very good at that.
And when you can get him in the high post a little bit against the zone. You can get him at the free throw line, short corner. You can kind of find some other areas, but that's not, Siakam is a methodical offensive player. Like, you throw it to him in the post, and it might take 3 or 4 seconds, but he'll get to what he wants to get to eventually. Yeah. But again, if you zone, it's not as easy to get to that. And then I'll go back to the length. What Milwaukee lacks in their backcourt right now, what they lack without Damian Lillard, what they lack in ball handling, they do make up for in size.
Right.
So again, 4 6'8" dudes, I mean, you look at that in a zone, that's a lot of length. I mean, Jim Boeheim's foaming at the mouth, thinking of Akeem Warwick and Craig Forth and Queth Duaney and Carmelo in a zone. I mean, you can hide Jerry McNamara when you got those 4 around him in that zone there.
Pull. I did not expect to hear a Syracuse reference.
I don't think I've thought of Jerry McNamara.
They're one of my favorite teams in college basketball.
Yeah, that was a fun run.
Akeem Warwick's block, obviously. Queth Duaney, shout out to Bloomington North.
I do want to piggyback off that real quick, Kevin. I think, to your point about breaking down the zone, a lot of it has to do with, do you have someone who in the middle or someone with size that can kind of see over it? And when your best playmaker, obviously he's 6'5", Tyrese isn't a small guy, but he's rarely going to be like in the middle of the play. And so Siakam, for as great as he is, I don't know if he's like the playmaker that other guys are maybe at that size. Does that kind of slow you down a bit? But I still think it comes down to ultimately shooting the basketball, and can you knock down open and outside shots, because that's what you're going to get. They're still pros. They'll get good looks. And someone I would expect to be a big reason why they either respond or wilt a little bit will be Andrew Nembhard. Not shooting the ball great as of late, and can he kind of turn the page and kind of help them get over the top?
You know what's interesting? You bring that up, Kevin, and I've wondered this throughout the year too. It's generally a team that clearly, with their point guard, handles the ball well. They move the ball well. They're coached well. It doesn't make any sense why they've struggled against the zone.
Yeah, again,
I've thought about this.
I'm mostly confused, honestly, because, James brings up Andrew Nembhard. I mean, that's a ball handler. That's a passer. That's a shooter. That's a point guard background.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing to have, I think, in a zone. Neesmith is a great dead-eye shooter. Siakam's skill. Well, Turner, I think, is a unique piece in a zone. Some teams, when they go zone, you're just, all right, make sure the center's not catching any lobs. Well, Turner, he can creep out to the three-point line.
Exactly.
So, again, maybe it probably should have been a question for Rick Carlisle on Tuesday. I guess weirdly, when we talked to Rick coming up on Tuesday, it'll only be one game into the series.
Yeah.
It'll be the day of game 2. So we can maybe throw that at him. James, I know you've brought this up a lot, and it's Benedict Mathurin getting his first playoff experience.
Oh, yes.
He met with the media yesterday, and Mathurin, I think, is typically, for the most part, I'd say he's rather reserved.
He is.
In the media settings. I thought he was a little bit more expansive yesterday. We'll play 2 answers here that Marcus cut. Benedict Mathurin yesterday at Pacers practice talking about his first playoff experience.
The work is right here, man. You see my big smile. Man, it's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. This is the moment I used to dream of my whole life. You know what I'm saying? And growing up, wanted to be in the playoffs and being able to be out here today. You know what I'm saying? And being here for my team.
What do you think about how your game and your skills will translate to this setting?
I think I'm like really, really competitive. I think I'm too competitive sometimes, but I think that's where the difference will be. We get to play. I think playing in the playoffs is a privilege. You know what I'm saying? The other teams is going on vacations, and I'm here still playing. So just going out there and playing like, it's do or die. I think this is why I thrive the most.
Getting excited. He's finally ready.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most words I've ever heard Benedict Mathurin say in one answer, because I remember the day he was drafted. He's pretty open then, but he is kind of that quiet killer, doesn't really show his emotions or his thoughts much throughout the media. He does give a lot of cookie-cutter answers, throughout the season. Sometimes you're like, man, is he coming to the podium? What is he going to say? But I think you can kind of feel that childlike joy of these moments. And on top of that, I think the relevance of him having the injury last year kind of gives you that extra bit of gratitude. Now, I'm not saying he didn't take it for granted before, but players often talk about, like, you just don't know until you go through it. And now he's fully healthy. and going into a big series. And he's going to be, I believe, a big factor in it as well. I know we talked to Tony East yesterday, and he was skeptical about his role and his minutes and maybe, you know, how that could fluctuate. But I think Benedict could be a guy who helps you win, you know, one of these games. And do you subscribe to the 2-1-1 theory, KB or Jeff? You heard this before?
I'm curious where you're coming from.
So Justin Tinsley from ESPN, he has his theory where in the playoffs.
On the horn last night.
I know he's a fantastic writer, one of my favorite writers actually, and it's a hilarious bit, but also it's kind of accurate. His theory is that in the playoffs, in a 7-game series, your best player will get you 2 wins, your second best player will get you 1 win, and then a role player or your third best player will get you that other win for your 4.
Okay.
And if you subscribe to that theory, I think that Benedict Mathurin could be the difference in 1 win.
So Halliburton 2, Siakam 1, and then Mather in the other?
Mathurin 1.
Yeah.
That's an interesting theory.
2-1-1.
Not every team has like that 3-headed superstar monster that just
If you go
Exactly.
off that, then
But we've seen role players swing series because they have that one game where they play out of their
Right.
body.
if you go off that, I think the Pacers should feel very good because I don't know who Milwaukee's second best player is, frankly, in this matchup. You know, because remember last year in Game 1, that was when Lillard went off.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Remember that? I mean, Pacers got smoked in Game 1 last year.
Yeah.
And that was with Siakam going off. Siakam, you know, tried to keep the Pacers in it, but, you know, Mathurin, obviously, I've said build thy statue for Benedict Mathurin since he was drafted. So, you know, my thoughts on him.
Hey, what's good, Kevin? Thank you for your support. Heard you're a big fan of the Pacers. I'm here, supporting you. You support me. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited for the season and looking forward to do some damage and get some wins. Let's go.
I'm convinced that he thought you were like a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Where is that from?
Did you sign a poster for him or what?
And I'm sad that like he probably thought I was maybe even like an ill young child as well.
I'm sure someone's like my friend, my buddy Kevin's a big fan of yours. He didn't know that you were a mid-30s
Can I get some
radio
context?
host.
Where is that? Why? What happened? How did that happen?
Didn't the Pacers just send that to us, Mark?
Somebody's like, "Hey, this is for you and Kevin, specifically Kevin. Play this tomorrow." I'm like, "Oh,
I
okay,
love
well."
that.
Mark's like, twist my arm.
Yeah.
Do we know who from the Pacers said that?
Play that audio there.
That is fantastic.
What he looks like in these playoff settings. Obviously, it matters a whole lot for the series in general, but boy, does it matter so much for the future of the franchise in regards to his
I have
role.
thought about this, yeah.
Like, and not to make too much of it, but it's hard for me to get away from that. Of just, man, this will matter a whole lot to how you view him, maybe even Jarris Walker. I mean, I thought he laid it out there pretty accurately. At times, I think his competitive nature, I might call it just his crazy, wired nature, does get the best of him. Like, when he is putting the head down and all of a sudden it's 3 turnovers and 6 possessions or something along those lines,
Yeah.
I think it's just, it's too juiced up, too amped up, too of a, so much of a self-believer, which, again, there's a fine line in that. You obviously want to have that, DAWG dog mindset. But, boy, when you toe the line, it can be costly at times. So what does that look like? Yes, playoff settings, the game slows down, and you get more of these one-on-one moments that are needed. And, game 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 of a series, they know everything that you run, and you know everything they run. So now it comes down to a little bit more of just, all right, can our best beat your best one-on-one? I do think that is very true. But how does he kind of just corral that at times? Does he still continue to kind of make the extra pass like he showed a little bit of strides this season? I can't wait to watch it unfold. And honestly, I don't know how it's going to go. I don't. Part of me thinks he will excel in the environment, and then there's the bird on the other shoulder that thinks, oh my gosh, he'll be too worked up. He'll be too amped up. I mean, to your point, James, you just heard answers from Benedict Mathurin you've never heard before. I mean, he's grinning ear to ear in that first answer when he describes how big of a smile he has. He's been waiting for this for a long, long time. You can look at it 2 ways. Rory McIlroy's probably been waiting all his life, or 11 years for a 2-shot lead going to the final round. You double bogey 1, will you respond from that? Or will that be the story of your entire round or entire series? So, Man, Mathurin's got my heart racing already.
I'm looking forward to him contributing, and I think he's going to do well. The more I think about this series, I think Indiana's going to win this in 6. I know we talk about 7, but if you go from the theory that Giannis is going to be Giannis and he has big, huge games, right? To me, the way for them to beat Indiana consistently, kind of going back to your 2-1 theory there, James, you're going to have big games from him, and then you're going to have some really nice three-point shooting from everybody for the Bucks. Can they do that enough to beat Indiana 4 times? I don't know that they can.
Yeah, I certainly would agree there, Jeff. And I just wonder how great is Giannis, because like I've said before, basketball is one sport where one player can really decide so much, and he's gotten better. That's the scary part about it. Like, I know we talked about the other guys got to knock down shots, but the shots he's creating for them are not shots that he was doing a couple years ago when he won MVP, and he's better than that.
Yeah, I mean, Carlisle threw out Jokic with him.
Yeah, so
on
like
Tuesday.
Yeah, that's the part where I'm just like, man. And I think a great character trait in great players is they make other players around them maybe feel like they're better than what they are. I mean, how many times we've seen it with, MJ back in the day, LeBron, like where you have guys who, they're good players, but they play a little bit higher because they have this guy next to me giving me that belief and giving me the opportunity to go out there and succeed. So I'm very excited to see how it all plays out. But I also think you got to go out there and make sure that you take care of game one. If you drop game one, it's not the end of the series, end of the world. We've seen the Pacers come back in series before, but it gives you that extra confidence. You know what I mean? Oh, can we get greedy? Can we get 2 while we're in Indiana? And so playing that game is always a bit scary because we know how marginal these playoff series can be.
It's Fan Morning Show with KBJB Jeff, Mark Dykman over there on the 1s and 2s, and a big day for college basketball yesterday as well. Indiana's starting to fill out that roster just a little bit, and it's going to look completely different next year. Kevin, it's going to be I know new coach, new everything, but it feels like, at least on paper, this team might have some shooters.
Optimism in Bloomington, or we've seen this song and dance of celebrated transfer portal classes before?
I'm always optimistic when you start over. I mean, great track record for DeVries coming in. He's bringing in a proven player in his son if he's healthy. And now we're getting guys that have, granted, not always at the top level, but they've been able to score. And, you've got to be optimistic given where the program has been for the last decade or so. It feels like...
Basically, you're saying anybody but Mike Woodson?
At this point, yeah. I mean, it got stale about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think a reason for optimism certainly revolves around the shooting focus. That is abundantly clear with really a large portion of the group. Honestly, the 2 guys yesterday are probably the first 2 you wouldn't label as, just kind of dead-eye shooters. But, I think when you're trying to put a puzzle together, Josiah Mills, more of a 6'6" wing, kind of more of a slasher, more of a rebounder. And then Tatum Conaway, maybe more of a lead guard that is going to get to the rim, certainly defend. His steal numbers extremely impressive. So, again, complimenting, I think, the lack of defense you probably have, and Lamar Wilkerson and Tucker DeVries a little bit as well. I think, again, the reason for optimism revolves around the spacing of the floor, the shooting focus, and now I think just the question you would have, and I know we hit on this a little bit yesterday, like anytime you talk transfer portal, anybody, go for Liam Murphy, the North Florida kid, going from North Florida to Purdue, or, Butler's got a slew of the transfer portal guys. Indiana's got obviously a ton of them as well. It's just, what do you look like in a different setting? Because one thing that is different about this year's group versus last year, Umar Ballo, Miles Rice, Kanan Carlisle, those guys did play at a Power 5 level. For the most part, these guys in IU's class haven't. So as much as the competition goes up there, I would also ask, are you ready for Indiana University basketball? Are you ready to go from 500 people in the crowd to 15,000 people in the crowd?
And they're on you when you mess up.
Are you ready to have frat dudes fawning over you and girls on campus coming up to you and saying, "My dad loves how you play basketball"? I don't think
or
that's
the opposite.
I don't think, or
no,
hey,
seriously, that's part of being in that environment.
So that's real life. This is not Troy. This is not Sam Houston
That's a
State.
good point
This is not North Florida. So I think that is the general, particularly with Indiana, because again, it is such a different environment there. So yeah, obviously the reason for optimism, I think, revolves so much around much more of a shooting focus, much more of a spacing of the floor. I can see Darren DeVries trying to put a puzzle together. I couldn't see it in years past. I thought it was a bunch of pieces that didn't fit. I now can see a little bit of it. The question is, still, it's 10, 11, 12, 13 new faces when it's all said and done. Putting that together in 1 year is not easy.
And that's why I say I think there's going to be a transition period. Do I think that they're going to go out and just all of a sudden be a top 4 team in the Big Ten next year? because of all the things you just talked about. That's not likely to happen. But if you go out and you start to see the pieces coming together over time, and maybe they're playing their best basketball by the end of February, and they become a little bit of a threat that people struggle with and don't want to play. I think in that first year, what do you think is realistic in a first year when you're really starting from scratch?
Yeah, it's really hard to tell until you fill out the entire roster, but considering the flip that he had at West Virginia in his first season, I went from 9 wins to 19, and he revamped the entire roster. That's pretty impressive. So I would expect something like that to this degree. Now, obviously, IU wasn't as bad as West Virginia was when he took over, but still, I would expect some jumps in wins overall and just overall play. But I think Kevin's pointed out recently, and we will certainly see, but can the team building be a bit better? Because there were times just watching IU over the years under Mike Woodson where they felt a bit disjointed. And they would have stretches where they played well, and obviously when you have pros on your team like Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trace Jackson-Davis, they can cover up a lot or they can help you win. And then hats off to Woody for recruiting those guys and getting them to come play well for him. But beyond those guys, it was kind of bleak. So can you build a team that's a little bit more just together and connected? Because so many times we watch games and it's like, man, has these guys played with each other before? And it would often come, or the breakthrough would come too late in the season. They make this push every year. You're like, oh, can they sneak in? It should be a bit of a quicker turnaround if you're serious about this program. Just throughout the season, hey, there could be growing pains, but man, we can't be waiting until, February when we're saying, oh, they look like they got it together. That's too late sometimes.
Yeah, one thing to note, too, about Indiana's roster, they're going to be old. I know there will be a bunch of new faces trying to be cohesive together, but they'll be old. I mean, we're talking 5-6-year college guys so far up and down that roster. That's a little bit different as well. For those that missed it, Purdue, Liam Murphy, the ad there yesterday from a portal standpoint, 6'7" forward. He shot at 42% from three last year with North Florida on 104 makes. So, again, that percentage on that volume is certainly very, very notable. He also played at Columbia, so you'd assume if you're getting into Columbia, you probably have some intelligence that the four people in this room don't have. So
Hey, hold on now. No, I wouldn't have got into Columbia.
Come on, man, you're an Illinois guy. Let's go.
James coming from a high school where they were allowed to make up tests.
Yeah. I wouldn't have gotten in Columbia if they had an open house to just go and visit.
They just screened you, Mark.
Yeah, look, KB, anybody who didn't graduate from Romanville High School, you just didn't want to.
And then Omer Mayer, I touched on it earlier. I watched him a little bit in the Hoop Summit, the Nike Hoop Summit, USA versus World.
He can go.
He is a point guard that has some vision. And I know he didn't really show it in the Nike Hoop Summit, but he's got a little bit more offensive game than I saw. I mean, I saw passes that I'm like, damn. I mean, he's throwing left-handed passes that were fitting into some windows. Again, with guys that he's had been practicing with for a week. And he is one of these dudes. I think we're starting to see more of this in college basketball. Some of these European guys who come over with professional experience. Yeah. He actually played at Trayvon Williams over in the Euro League. Not a ton, but did some of that. So, again, I would be disappointed. I know it sounds outrageous to say on April 17th, but I'd be disappointed if Purdue wasn't playing at Lucas Oil Stadium next year. I mean, they are, to me, easily one of the very few favorites to not only be at Lucas Oil Stadium, but win it all next year.
Yeah, it feels like for Purdue since...
I mean, think about it. They bring back a first-team All-American. They bring back a player in Trey Kaufman-Wren who averaged 20 a game. Fletcher Lawyer is a very nice third option. I don't think there's any way. I mean, he started how many games in his college career? Just purely experience. I mean, how many teams are bringing back production of Smith, Lawyer, Kaufman-Wren? And that doesn't take into consideration if Daniel Jacobson can recover from the broken leg, a guy that had a lot of people very eager to see what he could do from a rim protection standpoint. I loved what C.J. Cox showed as a freshman. I thought Jakari Harris had a flash or two late in the season. Those two dudes coming on a little bit. You've seemingly added a shooter in Murphy. Yeah, I mean, I get it might be a little bit hyperbolic, but yeah, Purdue should be one of the last teams standing next year.
I was just going to say, all that stuff that you just talked about, but really since bowing out in the tournament, it's gone about as well as they could have expected at Purdue.
I mean, they were a play away from making the Elite Eight last year.
They're right there. And I think they've done very well in the transfer portal, and there was a reason that even before this, we talked about it earlier in the week, even before the announcements of these transfers yesterday, they had the second best odds early right now going into next season.
I hear you, but man, I feel like college basketball can be cruel, man. It's hard to get to the Final Four, and I'm not saying that you're, betting it or saying it's a given, but I can lean towards where you're going, Kevin. But man,
it is hard. I don't want to discredit the run, but James, Purdue has given themselves
the expectations.
most quality darts of arguably any team in college basketball over the last 8 to 10 years. So when I say that, I mean a 1 seed, a 2 seed, a 3 seed, a 4. I mean, they are right there with a favorable draw in the bracket every year. I see no reason why they won't be coming up this year. I believe Chicago is the Midwest region if you want to really start to think about it from that standpoint. By the way, shout out to one of our own, and when I say one of our own, I mean the station. How about Michael Grady on the call for Game 1?
Let's go.
Love it.
Pacers, Bucks.
Stephanie
Michael
White as well,
Grady,
right?
Stephanie White on the call. So a ton of Indiana flavor on that. Texted MG a little bit yesterday. Unfortunately, he's got some busy schedule, understandably, here the next couple mornings, so we can't get him on. But that will be your ESPN 1 o'clock call coming up for Game 1. Michael Grady and Stephanie White.
Yeah,
I just like to move on.
Thanks, MG.
Michael's, it's just been fun to watch him. He's the regular TV voice now of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Had done a lot of sideline work in the NFL for CBS for a while. Now he's getting these great basketball playoff assignments.
Again, he did Pacers Spurs over in Paris. We had him on, I think, right after that, if I'm not mistaken. So, I don't know. Mark, maybe even Monday we could have him on to recap Game 1.
Always envious of that voice, too. Just golden voice. So much fun to watch an Indianapolis kid.
Yeah, I want his voice. I want Corbin's voice, too.
Yeah,
Corbin is like the voice of God.
That's
in movies.
That's what, if Paul Bunyan spoke, that's what it would sound like, right? Right?
I mean, I thought Corbin was acting the first time he talked to me. So, yeah, shout out to Corbin, our other producer.
All right, it's Fan Morning Show.
James
KB,
Earl
JB,
Jones.
and Jeff.
Yeah.
It's very James Earl Jones-like. Mark Dykton on the 1s and 2s. We got a big show coming up for you. Scott Agnes, you're going to join us in the next hour. And then your guy, Dane Brugler, the Beast, coming up in the 9 o'clock hour.
Looking at it again.
Let's go.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Little anxiety. You do all this work last night, you come in, the computer doesn't hook up to the system. That'll cause some anxiety for you right there.
Well, I think Mark's just referencing the TikTok trend. Have you tried it with your daughter yet? Does she even know? Because my goddaughter loves this stuff, and I'm always forced to do a TikTok dance whenever I go visit her. So.
No, they do the YouTube shorts. They don't really do the TikTok stuff, but currently they're all about like the Minecraft movie, like meme stuff and everything, saying like lava chicken and chicken jockey and all that stuff.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Are there TikToks out there with you dancing?
Yeah. People have seen them. I post them to Twitter, and it's out there. I'll probably post one come Easter if I make it home.
I've watched you record one in the Colts media room.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is what I do.
I haven't been treated to that yet.
Oh yeah, Mike Wells bullied me into doing it one day, but yeah, I try to keep it some professionalism, but it kind of goes away when I see my goddaughter. So
I can hear Mike Wells. I'm like, hell nah, James.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna show my class what not to do, and I'm like, dang man, I think I've done all right for myself, just a little bit, but yeah.
Any virals yet?
Nah, nothing viral. I mean, just for the family, I guess, and people who want to creep on the TikTok profile, which is fine.
Yeah. All right.
Carson has a nice touch on his balls.
Thanks, Mike Wells.
I
told you I've got audio on everybody.
Unbelievable. Mike Wells probably hasn't. I mean, that's what, 4 years ago? 5 years ago?
In the world, Mark, you are
Carson
the best.
Wentz, Mike Wells audio.
You need to leverage this.
Man, you got an encyclopedia.
You and Mark are double teaming me.
What?
Oh my gosh.
You imagine if like a competing station in town just hired Mark and he just blackmailed all of us the whole time?
Seriously, how are you going to leverage all this?
I'm purging all my audio on an like external hard drive, so even if it gets wiped, I've still got all my
We've been
audio on you guys.
All your goods.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking about basketball all morning long with a big day in the transfer portal for both Purdue and Indiana. And of course, the Pacers getting ready for their playoff series with the Bucks coming up this weekend. Haven't talked a whole lot about the Colts yet this morning. We are a week away from the NFL draft now. And I know for you guys who've been creating new and different ways to look at this draft from a Colts perspective over the last, almost 3 months now? Something like that. It can't come soon enough. Do you get to the point where anything really changes in how you approach this? Or are we kind of where we're at and have been there for a while, Kevin?
Well, I mean, I guess you had, as weird as it sounds, made a little bit of a wrinkle last week and like, okay, does the Mo Alley Cox thing impact the draft at all? I would answer no, but, does Matt Gay impact the draft at all? I mean, could you draft a kicker late? We should mention, by the way, because I know we tossed it in there at the end of the show yesterday, Chris Ballard is supposed to meet the media today for his pre-draft presser. That has been pushed to Monday morning. So Monday, James, I assume you'll exit a little early.
Yeah, 9 a.m.
I want to say it's a 9 a.m.er coming up on Monday from Chris Ballard, the week of the draft. Let me go here with you, James. We've talked tight end, and we've talked tight end.
Yeah.
What else? If I kind of
It's funny you said that.
threw the question to you of like an ideal draft for the Colts. You walk away from the draft in an ideal world, you would walk away with what? Not named tight end.
Dang it. It's like, trying to take a test and I can't cheat. Didn't do that very much in my life.
Or retake it.
Yeah, but I would say, and I actually did a piece on this in The Athletic this morning where I asked Twitter, hey, who are your NFL draft crushes and kind of your underrated guys? Skipped over tight ends, skipped over offensive linemen because I feel like I've talked about them a lot as well and targeted some guys. So you can go check that out. Picked about 10 guys that are maybe underrated. But I would say for an ideal draft, you come away with a coverage linebacker, someone who can at least challenge Jalen Carlisle for that spot and help you because that was a big area, I feel like, of deficiency in the defense last year. And then on top of that, you probably need to go O-line, D-line as well. You need to get some of those guys in the second, third, fourth round to just bolster your line. I even thought about this, and it's not a super high priority, but could we see them draft the right tackle? Because as much as we've heard about Braden Smith and what he's been through, and respect to him for even opening up about all his things that he's battled with, OCD and getting back to the playing field and things like that, but he's still on a one-year deal. This is the final year of his contract, and you have to worry about the future. So do you address that as well? So ideally, yes, tight end is a big part of it. I would assume that position gets addressed. But on top of that, linebacker, O-line, D-line.
Yeah, I'd probably start with the D-line. I get that the starting job is open at right guard, but when I look at the defensive line, you rotate so much. I think you can never have enough of a game-changing presence along that D-line. Again, Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, both over the age of 30. I don't think you can totally ignore that. I don't want to act like they're, in their Matt Ryan days of playing football, but still, you can't ignore it. And then again, from a defensive end standpoint, you hope Latu makes a jump, but Kwity Paye's in a contract year. Samson Ebukam is nearing the age of 30, coming off a torn Achilles. That is still a position group, especially with new defensive coordinator, that I think you have to pay a lot of attention to. Yeah, James, certainly O-line wise. I'm probably a little bit more of right guard focus, maybe like the swing tackle background. And that's kind of what you get with these draft prospects. Yeah. For example, at the local pro day, you had Marcus Bowe, the Purdue offensive lineman, kind of projected to go, day 2, possibly, as a draft pick. I want to say he started 18 of his 32 starts at Purdue were at right tackle. The rest were at right guard, but body type-wise, kind of like Zach Martin exiting Notre Dame, tackle in college, but body type play in the interior in the NFL. So, again, probably a little bit more of the interior prospect, and certainly linebacker. I think you have to walk out of there thinking, hey, we have found a linebacker that could potentially play a lot for us as a rookie. So, when you get away from tight end, those would probably be the next 3 on the list. And then I would have running back knocking on that door. A receiving running back I would have knocking on that door. Jonathan Taylor's injury, history has started to jump a little bit, but more of that receiving running back, I would certainly have that next.
I do want to follow up there. I know you mentioned that, hey, you go D-line first. However, how much do you think it matters to just try to get your offense as best as possible? And I say that just knowing how much is riding on whatever quarterback you choose to start. Ideally, it will be Anthony Richardson, but even if it isn't, it's Daniel Jones. So much is riding on that position for this regime, for this team. And part of me is like, yes, I would love to, target the defensive line. But the reason why I would probably lean more towards offensive line myself is that the idea of a quarterback who's already kind of limited, most likely running for his life because your right guard situation has not been addressed, or you did slide Matt Gonzalez over and didn't work. Is that something you would regret more than being able to scheme up more things defensively for your D-line? That's the only thing that I'm thinking about.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Yeah, it's certainly a fair point. I guess I would, and to kind of take it a step further, I'm largely nitpicking here. I mean, I'd probably give D-line the slight edge over O-line. To me, it's not that big of a difference. But a reason why I would go D-line above O-line is I think it's easier to find interior offensive linemen later in the draft than it is to find bona fide defensive linemen. That's probably how I would view it. I know I'm really trying to hit a home run with this thought, but I think a 4th-round pick on the O-line has a better chance to hit than a 4th-round pick on the D-line. That's kind of how I view it. To me, truly game-changing defensive linemen, they go early in drafts. Offensive linemen, you can find some serviceable answers, I think, a little bit later. I mean, James, you brought it up yesterday. One of the 7th-round picks of Chris Ballard's tenure is Will Fries. Will Fries just turned a 7th-round pick into how much money annually from the Vikings?
Was it 5 years, 4 years, $88 million, something like that?
So, yeah, I mean, that to me, there's a better chance, again, as small as the odds are, I don't want to act like all 7th-round picks are Will Fries, but to me, there's a better chance of the day 3 picks turning into that than there is the defensive lineman day 3 picks turning into that. I mean, I can't recall.
That's actually, yeah, that's a good point.
I can't recall a day 3 pick in the Chris Ballard era on the defensive line that has turned into anything. Maybe I'm forgetting somebody, and I could totally be thrown in my face. Whereas offensive line-wise, you have Fries. Danny Pinter has been a serviceable guy. Again, I think Tanner Bortolini could be your starting center. Joe Haig. I know you're going back to maybe the final Grigson draft, but he turned into, I thought, a nice piece as well. So, again, I just view it as you have a better chance at hitting a little bit later.
Here's a crazy question for you guys. With all the things that we've talked about, and the reason that we're not talking about tight ends right now, what's the fan base? How do they react if 14 comes and there's no tight end and they move along? Is there a reaction from the fans?
Yeah, I think fans would largely be disappointed.
If Tyler Warren's there and they don't take him, or if he's already gone and you don't take Colson Love, I think, yeah.
Or even if Warren goes like 12 or 13, you're going to get people that are going to be like, wait a minute, you didn't trade up for that?
Yeah.
Because it feels like a tight end's inevitable in the first round,
and I think that's
right?
what it would be funny, Jeff, if rounds 1 and 2 were on the same day. Would it shift at all if you did go Mason Taylor in round 2? Like that.
Yeah, that extra like 24 hours or whatever.
Because we will do a show with just a one-pick reaction.
Yeah.
And then we'll have 48 hours to recap 6 different picks.
And I'm going to be very critical. I'm going to just disagree vehemently.
So, yeah.
No matter what, right?
It is kind of funny, right? how the draft is reacted to and how it's split up from a pick standpoint. I do think there are some people out there. I don't think it's an overwhelming sort of majority that go back to the conversation we had earlier in the week. Last year, look at the top 12 tight ends in the NFL. Only one was taken in round 1, and that was Brock Bowers. I do think there is a chunk of the fan base, again, not maybe a massive chunk, that says, hey, tight end is not a position you draft early. And if this tight end class, as much as we've talked about Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, a lot of people talk about there's still some depth with the tight end class outside of those guys to further the Mason Taylor thing. NFL bloodlines, super reliable and dependable at LSU, one of the youngest players in the draft. So seemingly there's a little bit more to tap into with them. Would that make sense at 45? Do you go your elite D lineman, or to James's point, even an offensive lineman at 14, shore up that group, and then do you come back in round 2 and go with tight end?
As all drafts unfold, there's always a surprise or two in those first 5 or 6 picks, and that alters the way everybody else does things. You might get a little mini run on quarterbacks, and I think the thing that is going to be most interesting to watch next Thursday night at number 9 with the Saints, knowing that Derek Carr is probably going to miss most of, if not all of the season for the Saints, knowing that they probably want to get their future guy in there at some point anyway. Do they reach a little bit? Do they take perhaps a third quarterback already in that first 9? And how does that change everything else for everybody?
Great point. I mean, that's why it's always hard to predict, especially as you get further down. I think a few years ago when the Colts were at 4, at least the local media was kind of like, we get the feeling they're going to take Anthony because it's just easier to predict that. But, yeah, they kind of hold the cards. I think Mark's Bears are an interesting spot as well. They could go a couple different places with positions and players.
They're at 10, right?
They're at number 10. Yep. So
does a guy like Ashton Genty going early change things a little bit too? In addition
to all
that?
Exactly. Like he's a great player, but he's a running back. Like how much does that factor into where he goes? I saw his Players Tribune letter yesterday, which I thought the kicker was the ending to that was pretty cool. He said something along the lines of, this is tackle football. I draft a guy that can't tackle, and I was like, wow. Talking a big game, brother. But he's backed it up so far, obviously, through his college career. So getting back to the Colts, we'll see. But I definitely think they're going to be very flexible with what they do. And, again, I would not be shocked if they traded back if whoever they want isn't there. I know you're shaking, KB, but
shivers.
I mean, I feel like, okay, we want to put a percentage on it? Because I honestly think.
What kind of trade back makes sense to you?
I am shivering, but I'm not discrediting what you're saying.
I would say there's like a 35% chance of them trading back.
I mean, go back to January, and I know I've said this a couple times.
Flashbacks.
I've said this a couple times since that Chris Ballard season-ending presser.
Yeah.
Defense sounded a little different to me. Okay, what happened? Gus Bradley gone, Louis Anarumo in. All right, that actions met words. Free agency sounded really different to me. Well, I would say free agency has definitely been really different for the Colts. So again, actions have met words. The draft, I didn't think sounded very different from Chris Ballard. I think he continues to be very bullish on his draft history. And to be fair, he does have a good amount of hits. I'd argue not enough hits at the premium positions, but I didn't hear different from him in regards to the draft. So a week from tonight, a week from tomorrow night, a week from Saturday, will we continue to see the same old? High relative scores, senior bowls, captains, trade backs. By the way, have any of you guys ever been to the Snake Pit?
Yes.
You've been in
first year that I covered the Indy 500.
Like you were melting, you were sweating,
Yes.
you were at the EDM concert.
He took a gummy and he was whipping around like glow sticks.
Well, now this is going to go in a different direction.
No,
Tell us
I
more.
Mostly, I just wanted to go see what it was all about and observe. So I probably walked around for about 30, 45 minutes. There was way too much humanity for me. I was not drinking, and I was like,
What a
okay,
hell of an
I've
effort
kind of
by
seen
you.
it. Let's go.
I was told to.
It was hot, too. That's what I remember the day I went. It was hot.
You got to be the most sober person within 300 yards of that stage.
There was not a lot of sobriety going on there.
Did you guys see the Grand Marshal of the Snake
I
Pit
did
announced
see this.
yesterday?
I did see this.
No.
One Rob Gronkowski will be the Grand Marshal of the Snake Pit. Now,
That's fitting.
That's
I must go
perfect.
here. Mark, it's probably good. Go ahead and do this. You know, I think we did it last year on May 1. That first May show of the year, we probably should try and have Doug Bowles on. Maybe go ahead and reach out and see if Doug Bowles is a very busy man right now. I think he toured in the state, if I'm not mistaken, or was doing that recently.
There's got to be 5 of him, right?
You would think, which would honestly probably be a great thing considering how I think terrific he is at his job. What does the Grand Marshal of the Snake Pit do?
Shotgun a beer and
I
say,
think-
let's go.
I think the fact that it's Rob Gronkowski
Mark,
speaks for
shotgun
itself.
a beer.
doesn't it?
That seems to be
Minimally.
like bullet point 1 out of like 32 you would need to do to be the Grand Marshal of the Snake Pit. I don't think shotgunning a beer is where you stop.
Don't you think
No, that's
that,
where you start. You kick off the festivities.
Don't you
And
think
crowd
that
surf.
Is that it?
the
Crowd
job
surf.
description for Rob Gronkowski is just show up and do what you do? Don't you think that's it? Just be yourself. Make it happen.
He does seem to kind of fit the old Snake Pit adage here. So obviously there is a Fox element to this. You know, Fox, the new broadcasting partner of IndyCar and the Indianapolis 500. So Michael Strahan, pace car. Rob Gronkowski, Grand Marshal of the Snake Pits. And I've always said this. There are a few, race day dignitaries, if you will, that I do like a little bit of a local angle, or I do like a little bit of a racing background. But I also think it's very important to draw eyes on this event that are not normal eyes. And I would think Michael Strahan and Rob Gronkowski will do that. And they will promote it as well.
If you're Rob Gronkowski, though, and you start talking to them about being the Grand Marshal of the Snake Pit, do you not include on your resume, hey, once induced a drunk Tom Brady to throw the Lombardi Trophy to me over a body of water from boat to boat? Isn't that a great qualification for that job right there?
And that was a completion, was it not?
It was a completion.
Gosh, that was a great video.
If it wasn't a completion, they'd be still searching for it in the bottom of the water.
I would just like to know, what are the duties?
Well, and are Colts fans okay with this, that a former Patriot is the Grand Marshal of basically their race?
Well, again, Grand
Of the
Marshal
Snake
of the
Pit.
Snake Pit.
Well, still, it's still a big part of the festivities.
I think Kevin's onto something with
a
the
big
Fox
part
tie-in,
to a bunch
though.
of 20-year-olds
yeah.
that probably won't really remember much of what, Sunday the 500 looks like there. I don't want to act like this is Strahan or this is the green flag or this is something along those lines. I have no issue with it.
No. Hold the beer bongs up for everybody else and get out of the way.
I was told to just go and not ask questions, and I was like, all right. So
You are such a great observer, James. You will very much enjoy observing.
we'll see. I'll you know me, I'll have thoughts that I'll be happy to share after my first experience.
Everyone tells me that the Snake Pit is far tamer than it was even 20 years ago.
Well, I think it's just a different level.
Yeah.
It's turned into much more of, EDM and loud music and lights versus, cars running over each other trying to be in the first spot of
And questionable human behavior.
of the infield, and
I think that still happens.
potentially a child or two 9 months later.
I saw a lot of people having fun. I didn't see anything truly questionable when I was out there, but it was hot. I don't know how you drink that much when it's that hot. How's that happen? How's that work?
I mean, I went to a Big Ten school, so there were days where I woke up and walked around campus. You could smell liquor in the air.
The weather has nothing to do with how much you can consume. Doesn't matter if it's hot or cold. Pass me one, sir or madam.
Mark's got it down. All right. It's Fan Morning Show with KBJB, Jeff, Mark Dykton. Let's check it down.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Butler Bulldogs Basketball. 2025-26 season tickets are on sale now. Registration for iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse premium seats runs through May 31st. Don't miss Hinkle Magic. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
Men, the Pacers are waiting on the Milwaukee Bucks for their Game 1 extravaganza coming up on Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock. You'll hear it beginning at 12:30 with the pregame here on The Fan. The tip just after 1 last night in the NBA. More play-in contests in the East. Miami over the Chicago Bulls 109-90, leaving Mark Dykton disgusted and not even viewing the second half.
I gave it 5 minutes. I said, this is not worth my time.
Did he get to the first half?
No, I didn't get through the first quarter. I didn't get to the first TV timeout.
Discussion earlier on the show about whether Billy Donovan is still the right man for the job in Chicago.
I haven't thought that for years, but hey, if the check still cashes, go get it.
Yeah, the rumors that he was going to go to IU, I'm like, I think Bulls fans would walk him over to Bloomington if they were given the opportunity.
Dallas Mavericks in the West eliminate the Sacramento Kings 120-106. After that, Kevin, Kings said goodbye to their general manager, the guy who brought us Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, Monty McNair getting the axe last night, so you will have two 10 seeds still alive here in the NBA playoffs. We've never had one make it through 2 playing games and into the bracket, but that's what the Heat will try to accomplish tomorrow night. They've got the Hawks, and it'll be the Grizzlies taking on the 10-seeded Mavericks.
Yeah, Atlanta and Memphis will be the home teams in that. Also, basketball news yesterday. Kind of cool. James Boyd, the Noblesville Boom, going to be the new home for what was the Mad Ants.
Yeah, respect to Slick Leonard, a legend, and honoring him and his saying. And I thought it was cool. I think that name is certainly unique to the Indiana area, so I can't wait to get out there and check out a game.
All right, college basketball, busy day in the transfer portal for both Purdue and Indiana. Kevin, a couple of guys for the Hoosiers as Darren DeVries starts to rebuild that roster.
Yeah, potentially, I guess they're starting point guard, Tatum Connerway, Sunbelt Player of the Year from Troy, averaged 14 a game, handful of assists. I think kind of more of a driver, defender type than maybe the knockdown shooter that they have already added in some other pieces. Josiah Miles from North Florida, 6'6" wing. Again, a guy that probably, gets to the rim a little bit more than some of their other additions. Nice rebounder for his size. So Darren DeVries continuing to add. I would say right now they probably have, half their roster filled up. They definitely need height and size and rebounding, even some rim protection. I'd say that's probably where things shift now in the transfer portal focus for Indiana.
And Purdue had a couple of guys in the portal yesterday. A point guard from Israel, Omer Meyer. You've seen him play and played some pro ball over there too.
Great vision, yeah. Again, I don't act like I've watched a lot of them, but in the brief Nike Hoop Summit that I saw, unbelievable vision. Sounds like the thought here is this is the Braden Smith understudy. So can you take a minute or two away, or I shouldn't say take away, but maybe offer to Braden Smith so he's not playing 40 minutes a game. We'll see if that is any part of the 2025-26 plans. And Liam Murphy, shooter from North Florida, shot it at an extremely high level this season and shot it well against some of their big-time opponents, which I think anytime you're seeing guys project from that level to, Big Ten play here, always curious about that. So losing Miles Colvin, losing Cam Heidi, a 6'7"-ish wing was needed, and sounds like a real dead-eye shooter here in Liam Murphy.
All right, Padres beat the Cubs by a score of 4-2 yesterday. Again, Fernando Tatis Jr. wrecking the entire league, but wrecking the Cubs this week, Mark. He's just been a one-man wrecking crew against
He's very good.
Yeah, he is. Also, the Reds losing yesterday to the Mariners. 5-3 was the final score. In that one, the Indians got a win in 12 innings and a walk-off. They beat the Toledo Mud Hens by a score of 5-4. They will play again tonight at 6:35. Over at Victory Field. If you're looking for a businessman special today, you can make the drive over to Cincinnati where the Mariners and Reds play at 12:40. We'll have to go do that one of these days. What do you guys think this summer?
Reds, Cubs, Mark and I just fighting each other as we're on the...
Do I have to put one even
I'm
going to
bring my Get Along shirt that you all can wear on the way back.
Yeah, we'll have to put one in the front seat, one in the back seat.
Loser rides in the trunk. I hit every pothole on the way home.
Loser has to mega bus it back.
Yeah.
All right, coming up in a minute, we'll talk Indiana Pacers, Milwaukee Bucks. Scott Agnes from Fieldhouse Files. He'll stop by. It's the Fan Morning Show, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
1 hour from now, the great Dane Brugler, NFL draft analyst for The Athletic, ranking 2,700 prospects in the Beast, which just sounds absolutely awful to do. But I'm glad Dane does it, not me, and I'm glad we can talk with him about it. He will join us coming up.
He loves that.
He does. He certainly does. He'll join us here in an hour as we are 1 week away from the 2025 NFL Draft. Green Bay this year for where the NFL Draft will be. But our focus right now here at 8:30, typically on most Thursdays, Scott Agnes, Fieldhouse Files, little Pacers, little Fever chatter with him. Scott, good morning to you. How are you?
Hey, KB, doing well.
For those watching nationally on Saturday afternoon, they're going to like the voices they hear on ESPN, won't they?
They really will. It's going to be a tough choice, I think, for Hoops fans here in Indiana because some will want the usual crew, and I can't blame them at all. But then on the other side, you get a little local flavor, especially for loyal listeners of your station here with the Fan, of course, with Michael Grady. He'll be on the play-by-play. This is his first year with ESPN. His main job is the play-by-play voice of the Minnesota Timberwolves, but he also signed a deal with ESPN, and we all remember him getting his debut at the Garden against with the Pacers and Knicks playing. But then on top of that, Stephanie White will be the analyst. So about a week before the Fever season kicks off, she's spending the next couple of days here reviewing film, and we'll be talking about the Pacers and this Bucks matchup.
So, Scott, I want to go here. First 50-win season in over a decade. First time having home court advantage in the first round in over a decade. You've seen every version of this Pacers team. So what has it been like to see, where they were for 2014 and 2013, that Paul George era till now,
yeah.
And just how different but how fun it's been to kind of enjoy this ride?
Yeah. Every time you kept saying decade, I was thinking, crap, I was there. Yeah, I know it's been that long. I know. Yeah. It's just the thing I go back to, first of all, is just the fun and joy that the teams have. And that was the same exact thing with those two teams, the team that made the back-to-back appearance in the conference finals. I think the other telling point was how much they liked each other, how much they were connected, how much they would hang out and be around each other. And then you also had guys at different points of their careers. Like back then, it was David West commanded that locker room, and it was young Paul George who was ready to blossom. And in many accounts, sure, you have like a James Johnson in this locker room, but then, it's Tyrese Halliburton's team. But really, Pascal Siakam has all that playoff experience. So, sure, yeah, it's definitely fun to kind of compare where they're at. But the key thing I think about the team that's making the run right now is it's fun to see this group kind of reemerge into relevancy because it was a dark couple of years. You were there for at least a couple of them there. When things were doom and gloom a little bit and they were trying to figure out the right coach, and then you try to get out of the COVID situation and guys wanting out. Well, now you have a situation with so many guys that love their spot, who have really starred in their own role, and for in many cases, guys that have not yet arrived to the scene, if you will. And the guy I'm thinking about there is KB's favorite, and Benedict Mathurin, who's getting ready to make this playoff debut.
Scott Agnes, Fieldhouse Files, joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline, getting ready for the first-round Eastern Conference playoff series in the NBA between the Pacers and the Bucks starting on Saturday afternoon. We saw a nice breakout from Nembhard last year. Who's poised to break out for the Pacers this year?
I'm going to go with Mathurin. I think you'll see Nesmith and Nembhard take it to another level, and they're going to need it defensively, Jeff. But when it comes to the postseason, a lot of what you need is a guy that can break things up a little bit. And when the team's in a dry spell and hadn't scored for 5 minutes, or shots just aren't falling, like Siakam, Mathurin's a guy that can just go get his own. He can get to the free throw line. He's competitive as heck. And so for that reason, I think he is focused as ever right now. It was so painful for him, Jeff, to just sit on the bench last year and just be helpless, be unable to help whatsoever. And he didn't even have veteran experience so that, he could talk guys through things. He was going through it for the first time. So to me, it's undoubtedly Mathurin.
Again, Scott Agnes, you can find his work, Fieldhouse Files. Game 1 coming up Saturday at 1 o'clock. Game 2 will be Tuesday at 7. Both of those inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Non-Giannis division, Scott. What do you think should worry the Pacers about the Bucks?
I would say, one, having a couple games where you just can't shoot it well. This is a team where you have to shoot it well from three-point distance. And so if they're just not firing, if they just the shooters aren't there, that would concern me. From the Bucks specifically, we've seen Kyle Kuzma go off on this team many times, especially when he was in Washington, right? Like, you knew the Pacers were going to win that game, but Kuzma might go for 35. So that's something I'm certainly keeping in mind here. And then outside of that, this is a matchup where it's so similar to last year, except the Pacers are basically running it back, whereas the Bucks change things up. I'll be curious how they decide to guard Halliburton, what Doc Rivers and the Bucks try to take away and eliminate, and then how the Pacers adapt to that.
Let's go here, Scott, because we've debated this throughout the show this week. What is your playoff rotation? And does it shrink to where a guy like Shepard or Walker is the odd man out?
Man, James, I think that is one of the biggest questions regarding this series, because how far do you go and how do you adapt based on lineups and also who's playing well? For example, Shepard hadn't played in several weeks, right? He was solid in the postseason last year, good defense, good guard play, but at the same time, to match length, athleticism, and as much as you want to run, can you squeeze some minutes in there for Jarris Walker? I would like to see some of that. But my initial inclination here is that they'll do what they've done for most of the season, keep it about that 10 number with Jarris just on the outside and available if circumstances happen, right? An injury or foul trouble or those sort of things. But I generally think they'll keep it like it was. But this is also the time of year where I think you'll see guys play a little bit more minutes than they were playing. I think they did a nice job of managing minutes throughout the season, and so now you can push guys if necessary, especially when you have, say, an additional additional day in between games like they do even game 1 to game 2.
Scott, we were talking about this earlier today. In the past this year, Milwaukee's zone had given the Pacers some problems with, as well as they move the ball and ball handlers that they have and the ability to take big guys outside for true spot-up threes. Why do you think a zone has bothered this team at times?
Yeah, and you're going to see the Bucks go to it for sure for that reason, Jeff. No doubt about that. And I think the Pacers will probably reciprocate a little bit and show flashes of it as well. I think the number one thing about it is it slows them down and makes them think, where so much of how they want to play is read, react, and just get down the floor in 8 seconds and get to the basket. I think the zone very much changes kind of what they're used to, what they're comfortable with, and kind of forces them to reset a little bit. And then a lot of times if shots aren't falling, that changes the feel of things too. You need Obi Toppin to knock down that corner three. You need Shepard out on the wing to be able to do the same. And so, that is a very good point by you. I think the Pacers are definitely prepared to get some zone action.
Again, Scott Agnes with us here, Fieldhouse Files, where you can find his work. Scott, 1 month from today, the Indiana Fever will open up, season number 2 with Caitlin Clark running the show. What's next on our schedule? I feel like we got to be nearing the start of training camp here soon.
Yeah, we are. Coming up next Sunday, so not this one. April 27th is the start of training camp. And then
man, they play a preseason game within that first week of training camp.
That's what exactly right. So a week into the season, not only do they play one, it's a back-to-back because of the special kind of ceremonial game they're doing at Iowa. So they host Washington, who had 3 of the top 6 picks here in the draft recently. And then they go directly to Iowa for a showcase game for Caitlin. Then they have another preseason game. Then you have a little bit of a break, and then about 10 days later, you'll have the opening night. But it's so unique, right, because of the fact that they're bringing in at least probably 2 new starters, 7 new players at least, and that doesn't even account for the 3 draft picks they have. So it's going to be a competitive like hell training camp, and I'm not sure where you do the cuts because there just aren't enough roster spots in the WNBA right now.
Did you catch any of the exciting play-in action last night?
I tuned in, saw it was a 20-point lead, and tuned out. I'm one of those. I don't know where you guys stand. I am not a play-in fan. I would much rather pace the season out better, eliminate back-to-backs, maybe have more pacing in the NBA Finals and not play every other day rather than, the 10th team had all season to figure out, and now let's give them one last chance. That's kind of where I stand on that.
I think Kevin was pointing out this could possibly be the first time we've seen a 10th seed advance into the actual playoff round.
That could be right. But then again, will they make any noise? Probably not. No. So what are we doing?
That's like, I don't care, man.
I hear you on that. I do want to kind of drive home the point, though, Scott, going back to the Fever for one last question for me. And again, Scott Agnes does great work at Fieldhouse Files. Subscribe to him on the Pale Slickers hotline for us right now. But, you look at the 3 picks that they chose in the draft, the Fever, that is, and can you maybe just explain to the general public how hard it is to actually make the team? Because I think that's maybe a little bit lost when you look at the players that were picked up, and I'm looking at it's Bree Hall, it's Michaela Timpson, and I'm blanking on the last girl in the 33rd.
Yvonne Ajim from
Yvonne Ajim.
Gonzaga.
Yep. So those 3 get picked up, but rosters are so hard. Rosters are so hard to come by. So can you just break down what that looks like for like the next step of the roster process?
Yeah, absolutely. They do. To simplify it too, there's no two-way contracts like there are in the NBA. There's obviously no minor league for them to go into. So teams can bring more than a dozen players to training camp, just like they can in the NBA. But there were 144 spots. That's it. Now, of course, there's one more team, so it goes up to 156 spots for all the players in the league, with 12 per team. So it is a very realistic possibility that none of the players the Fever just drafted made it. Now, I doubt that, but it's not out of the realm. I think at least one of them, and Timpson would, be in their top pick in that second round. But you go into this training camp, and there's at least 7 new players to the roster, a couple players that, including a couple that are first or second year players, and you don't know if how they fit with this team and how they gel and how they develop. But I love, to your point, James, of having this draft and the players that they were able to get. You can just see the intangibles. I mean, like a Bree Hall, a winner, won 2 championships with South Carolina, played a couple years with Aaliyah Boston, played the most games in Gamecocks history, and always took on the biggest defensive assignment. Now, I'd love to find a spot for a player just like that on the roster, but she was also the 20th pick in the second round, probably for a reason. So that makes things incredibly difficult for this Fever front office come training camp.
Always good to talk to you, Scott. Thanks for your time this morning. We appreciate it. We'll see you over there Saturday afternoon.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
There he is. Scott Agnes does a great job of the Fieldhouse Files, and Indiana Pacers getting ready. We're counting down to playoffs.
I would like to know Scott's, and maybe we'll ask him this when he's on next week, like what is his favorite Pacers memory or the craziest thing he saw in person? Because, again, he's seen every rendition of this team. And, I mean, hell, you probably look back to last year in the first round over some crazy moments throughout this thing. So it'll certainly be rocking at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And I'm going to get on my soapbox here, wear the shirts. I think Indiana people would. But I'm watching some of these like playing games, like the Steph Curry one with Golden State, and like you saw these people not wearing the shirt. Wear the shirt.
Well, are they going gold out with the city uniforms, or are they going to get a little bit of a neon look to the shirt?
I'm not sure. We haven't seen a tease just yet, but whatever shirt they give you, please just put it on.
I'm a shirt guy. You're not better than the people with the shirts on. Come on, put them on.
Exactly. I'm a shirt guy.
Who do you think you are?
This show lasts, James, there will be nothing I endorse more than what you just said.
Yeah.
Wear the shirt.
Oh, I got courtside seats. I can't put this on. Put it on, you
I
jackass.
need my
What are you
button
doing?
down,
No.
I need my, business casual look that I wore to work today when I, in reality, just worked from home for 5 hours.
Oh, I'm with clients. I can't pound sand. Put a shirt on.
Yep. Wear the
Who do you
shirt.
think you are, Dwayne?
They should ban you. If you're that low and you don't put the shirt on, they should put you up in section 204.
You go to standing room only. Get the hell up there.
Or, either the Kroger loft or you have to go to Boomer's Catwalk.
Ooh, I
Lord.
like that. I like
Show
that.
your Kroger card. We're dropping shirts.
So how good is your
Nothing wrong
insurance?
with that.
No, nothing at all, but that's the punishment.
Ooh, I like that. All right, coming up in a minute, we've got a family 4-pack to give away for the Indy 11 on Saturday night. They won last night at Carroll Stadium over Miami FC, 1-0. A lot of bonus soccer in that one last night, too. They got the game winner.
No Messi, though?
123rd. No, Messi didn't show up for
No
FC.
Messi.
Messi did not show up for FC, being with Inter Miami, as we've learned this
Carroll
week.
Stadium welcomes Messi in.
I would have been there.
I'd have been there anyway if I had a chance to go last night. Would have been good. All right, we'll do that. Family 4-pack coming your way next. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
As promised a moment ago, got a family four-pack to Saturday's Indy 11 game last night against Miami FC. They got a lot of bonus soccer last night. The 123rd minute, Indy 11 defender Hayden White, a day after his 30th birthday, gets the game winner. How about that?
I mean, that's something. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And so they will play again on Saturday night. If you can go, got a family four-pack right now, 239-1070. What number you want to take today?
Number 1, because that's how I feel about my life.
Yeah.
God, I thought you were going to say 123rd, like the minute they scored the goal.
Oh, no.
We've done that to guys before, and it's like 15 minutes of like, you're number 4, you're number 5, you're number 6. Sorry, not you, not you, not you. What's the highest you've ever actually gone to, Mark, to give something away?
I mean, I think someone's said a number, and I'm just like, okay. Like, let's go to 40. Okay, I'll do every caller's 10. Okay, you're caller 10. Actually, you're caller 1. Actually, you're caller 2, but you're caller 20. Hey, you called your caller 40.
I mean, you really could pick anybody I wouldn't know, so you are always more honest than you probably have to be, Mark.
All right, so fast fingers. First one in, 239-1070, the number to call. You brought something up interesting I did not know during the break. Kevin Bowen we were talking about the popularity of Messi worldwide, and we were talking about the popularity of Kevin Bowen. And he is quite the fan favorite these days.
I know where you're going with this. I was like, what? Yeah, I guess KB has a fan page on Twitter.
Did you know that?
I have come across this. We call these burner accounts, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't check my phone. I don't want you
people acting
seeing
like
what
other
I'm
people,
tweeting. But
I guess is what you're referring to.
I might know who it is. I might not. You just don't know. People love you, KB.
I'm always like, these are a lot of email addresses to try and keep all this
weird.
straight here.
It's weird.
You had the great idea, too. Can you imagine if social media, if everybody had to have like a verified picture, personality to get on?
Yeah, it'd be better because, I mean, my only thing with this is, and we can certainly pivot to more sports-related things, my final point on the matter is I just would prefer everyone to be an honest hater. So put your face behind it, put your name behind it, just be honest and hate. It's okay.
Don't hide behind the egg.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you don't like somebody or some sport, stand on your hate because then I know you have some heart. You can't be a real hater without some heart and some conviction. That's all I'm saying.
So I don't think you can watch the IU spring game tonight. 8:00 tonight. Kurt Cignetti spring game action. Is this real? Is Indiana real? Are they now
That is a great question.
Legit playoff contender, or was this JMU guys, lightning in a bottle, one of the easier schedules in college football?
And they're going to lose some big-time players this year, too.
They did lose, yeah. They did. They added for Nano Mendoza in the transfer portal from Cal, will seemingly be the starting quarterback. But, boy, that's a question that fascinates me. Is Indiana football, is this really happening?
What do you want to see from them this year? I mean, does it go back to the playoff again?
You are paying Cignetti to be a playoff contender. I mean, you look at the schedule. I mean, the non-conference schedule is an utter joke. It's Indiana State, Kennesaw State, Old Dominion. Then you get into Big Ten play. It's definitely tougher. I mean, you go to Oregon, you go to Iowa. You've got Penn State as well. I think Illinois is supposed to, be a pretty good team.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to the Fighting James Boyd. So certainly the Big Ten schedule is a little bit tougher, but I guess I'm like, how do you view Indiana now? Like, do we now move the bar higher and say, no, you're paying Kurt Cignetti this type of money. You should be a top 10, top 15 team. Or do we say, hey, it's Indiana football, treat them with some kid gloves?
Nah, no kid gloves. Especially with that non-conference schedule. So,
especially all the blank that Kurt Cignetti talks too. You're not.
That's a very good point Mark has made. He talks
you can't talk
huge
all
game.
that junk, and then when expectations get a bit higher.
So 7 or 8 wins, we would call that a failed season.
It's got to be 8 or 9 at least, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Coming off last year.
Yeah, I would say more in the 8-9 range would be better. 9 is probably like my little 9.5, 8.5, somewhere in that range.
Why not go 10, JB?
Because I just don't think they're as good as they were last year. Curtis Rourke isn't walking back through that door for them. But I'm going to go, yes, they should have higher expectations. But I'm also going to say they're for real. Meaning they'll be Not as good as last year, but they should be a top 25 team.
Pretty simple. I win. Google
Hey,
me.
when you talk like that, and then to give Cignetti his credit, he has won and he sustained it at other places. It's just, can you do it here?
I mean, frankly, he's never not won.
Yeah, so I'm almost like taking the man over the program, if that makes sense, and maybe he brings a different vibe to them, which he has so far. So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and we talk about football down there in the spring game tonight, but big day for basketball for both Purdue and Indiana. One thing that was interesting, both teams get somebody from North Florida. Did you notice that, Kevin?
Yeah, North Florida, I think all they did was shoot threes last season. Both of Josiah Miles to Indiana, kind of a 6'6" wing there, and then Liam Murphy to Purdue, definitely a shooter. I mean, like north of 40%, made over 100 threes. So the Ospreys of North Florida becoming the old, hey, we'll get your players a little bit better and we'll send them off to you. We'll be the AAA or the AA system. Really, Indiana's gone, and again, this is different from last year. Indiana's gone with a lot of the mid-major high production. You know, last year, Carlisle went to Stanford, Miles Rice, Washington State, Umar Ballo, Arizona. You know, that was the high major transfers over. This is the low major. And how do you look at it? Do you say, well, they're low major guys. That means they have less ego. That means they worked harder. That means I don't know what other stereotypes you throw in there. Or do you look at it and say, oh, man, are they ready for Big Ten basketball? Are they ready for an environment that isn't 500 people watching their college team? It's 15,000 people.
It's probably a little bit of
watching
both.
their college team.
Probably a little bit of both. And how well can those guys make the transition to big-time college basketball?
I was looking at, real quick, since we're talking IU football, looked at their over-under win total projection, 8.5.
Oh,
big
so I was
number.
like,
Right
on the money.
But again, when you look at that schedule, Mark, I mean,
I
the
know.
non-conference is layup, layup, layup. And then
That's
in
three.
conference, I mean, you are at Oregon, you're at Iowa. I think you're at Penn State, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So let's say you lose those three. I mean, it comes down to like the Illinois game. I mean, you got Michigan State,
And we know that's
Maryland.
going to be a loss. No, I'm joking.
Like Michigan State, Maryland, Purdue. I mean, this is not your older brother's Wisconsin team. Like, they haven't been there as well. So
Purdue 3.5, by the way. Expectations is a little different in West
Purdue's
Lafayette.
got Notre Dame
Mhm.
in South Bend.
Oh, there's a win.
Purdue's non-conference has always looked a lot different than Indiana's non-conference.
Do you give them more respect for that, or should you say, hey,
I
your
think
program's
I
kind of struggling?
Yeah, I generally am in the non-conference camp of you need to have one game of note.
I can
think
get
you
with that,
owe
yeah,
it-
because these three on Indiana's schedule, I'm like, man.
I get that it's
I'm
a
not
race
checking
to
for
6
this.
wins
Yeah,
and the
but
Big Ten's
geez.
tough. I understand that. But I think it serves your program well, your fan base well, your season ticket package well, to have one
Ding,
game
ding.
of note. You
Yeah.
don't need to be having Indiana State, Old Dominion, and Kennesaw State.
Yeah, you need
And that's an absolute joke. What, Mark, do you have Purdue's schedule in front of you?
No, I can look it up real quick, though.
I mean, again, I think, they had even like State of note. Again, they played Notre Dame last year. Like, okay, that's nice. That's at least somewhat healthy there.
Ball State, Southern Illinois, USC, Notre Dame, Illinois, Minnesota, Northwestern, Rutgers, Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, Indiana.
Imagine that 3.5 is the over-under with that schedule.
I mean, last year it was what? Probably right there, and they won one.
All right, coming up in a minute. Mark, do you have a special edition of You Gotta Know?
Sure. Yeah, I can whip that up. Yeah.
All right, we'll
we're
do
good
that
to go.
next. Then a little bit later on, your guy, Dane Brugler, the Beast.
He's a
We'll talk
beast.
about NFL Draft. That's dead ahead on Sports Radio 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We got Dane Brugler coming up at 9:30. That is the NFL draft analyst from The Athletic, his latest mock. Colston Loveland to the Colts at pick number 14. Tyler Warren going to Mark's Bears at 10. Shadur Sanders falling to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21. Do want to throw a local question or two Dane's way as well. Curtis Rourke, maybe even Marcus Bowe, the Purdue offensive lineman. But always enjoy our convos with Dane, and very appreciative of his time coming up here at 9:30.
We don't talk a lot about Marcus Bowe, but Kevin, he could be a mid-second round pick, you think, when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I could see day two, certainly. Day two, round 2 and 3. Again, mostly, I shouldn't say mostly, but, he played, I think, a little over half his starts at right tackle at Purdue. But, from a size standpoint, just the frame himself reminds me a little bit of Zach Martin at Notre Dame. 6'4", 300 pounds. They typically, the NFL being they, move those guys inside. And obviously, he played at a very, very high level at Purdue. And certainly the Colts have a need at offensive guards. So, James, he was an attendee but not a participant, right, at the Colts local pro day?
I believe he came, but he didn't participate. But I'll have to double check. I actually only talked to Curtis Rourke and another Illinois guy because I just knew him personally. But there were a couple of guys who might have been on hand, but that didn't participate.
Also saw in your piece yesterday towards the very end, you're like, I knew I was going to end up taking an Indiana guy, and here I am.
Yeah. So, again, I threw out a question on Twitter maybe about a week ago, and I was like, hey, who are your draft crushes? Love is in the air. And one of the players that I got was an Indiana guy. And so not surprised by that at all, just because why wouldn't I get that response? We're in Indiana. I know Curtis Rourke is someone who's got a lot of love as well. And I just think that they do have a couple of legit NFL prospects that we can certainly keep our eye on. The guy that was thrown out there to fill everyone in was Jalen Walker. And so he's a linebacker for them. Looks like he's projected as a 6th round pick, day 3 guy. And could he be someone that the Colts take a flyer on, or somebody else as well? So I enjoy that exercise because you get, some guys where I'm like, this really isn't underrated. I got some responses that were like, Jahad Campbell. And I'm like, no, he's not underrated at all. Everyone's draft crush is probably him or someone like him. So, keep an eye out, though. I do have a big board coming up. My final one next week, 40 players. So I'll be writing. So please read.
And just remind people, I know we mentioned it to end yesterday's show, Chris Ballard's pre-draft presser was originally scheduled for today at 2 o'clock. That has been rescheduled for Monday morning. So James will head out early. It's actually during our show.
I think he's ducking KB, man, because for Thursday at 2, and KB's got to be down in Bloomington with this class, and then Monday at 9 a.m. he's got to be here. So again, KB, if you want me to FaceTime you, I will.
Yeah, that's a big one, James.
So you looking at his big board, right? That's what we're talking about.
Maybe Chris Ballard is the guy that created the fan page.
I mean, maybe. But jokes aside, yes, I'm excited to talk to Chris Ballard Monday morning. Lots to cover before the draft. He probably won't get too much, like usual, into the draft. But there's always some nuggets, KB, when we look back, and it's like, oh, yeah, he kind of told us what they were thinking. He doesn't lie.
Not to program on air, but, Jeff, should we carry that live and then react to it, or
no? Possibly. It depends on what's going on. Depends on what's happening. I don't know that it
what else is happening
to the huge breaking news.
Oh, you don't want to hear? I'm asking.
That
First
idea
of all,
just got dunked on.
I know. I'm asking kicker questions to start the thing off, okay?
Well, curveball action. Talking about.
I like that.
We'll get into the quarterbacks, but I'm like, wait a second. I have more important things to talk about,
I like
Chris.
a kicker question.
Yeah.
Kevin, did I miss it? Are there 1 or 2 fairly local kids from high school that are going to be under consideration for the draft this year? Do we know?
There probably are. I mean, I would have to go back and look, but the talent's always pretty good.
I mean, in James' neck of the woods, certainly where he covered it early on in his career. Kenneth Grant, Maryville, big old dude from Michigan. I think he's likely going round 1. But James, unless I'm missing somebody, I don't think local high school wise. Boy, I hope I'm not missing anybody. Usually I got a decent tab on this, but I don't think anybody in the early rounds.
Yeah, I would have to double check. I'm sure there's
they would have been at the local pro day.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
So we did have the Beach Grove guy from
Josh
Ohio
Fryer,
State.
but I don't think he's that high.
Yeah, but not a super local guy. But I will say I got invited to Kenneth Grant's draft party. I can't make it because I have to be here for, our coverage with
I
the
would
Athletic.
go just for the spread.
But, man, yeah, and I've been to one before. Lonnie Johnson went to Westside High School in Gary. He's like kind of been a journeyman in the NFL, but he's been in the league now for, I believe, 5 or 6 years. So he's still surviving and having a good time. And Kenneth is projected to be a first-round pick, and I could not be more happy for that kid because he's such a great young man. He was a beast in high school, and it's funny when you see that talent at that level because you kind of just know, oh, you're a future pro going against guys who will have regular jobs after high school because they not athletically can move like you. So saw him at the combine, got to say what's up, and he told me he's going to represent the region well, and I don't doubt that for 1 second.
5 or 6 years in the NFL is an accomplishment in and of itself. That just doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, and what I love about it too, and not to get too soapboxy or preachy, but at least the region athletes that I've come in contact with, I'm sure it's the same way with the kids around here in the Indianapolis area. When they go off, most of them do come back, and they do things in their city or do camps and stuff like that, and make it a tangible thing. I think that's a huge thing for kids that look like you and want to be like you, where you can come back and be that tangible example of like, oh, this guy didn't just make it. He's kind of showing us that he's a real person. He can come back and get back to his community. So, yeah, I'm excited for the draft for those reasons and others too.
So I think my math is correct on this, but feel free to tell me that I'm an idiot if I'm wrong on this.
Oh, you're wrong.
So Pacers-Bucks, last year they met 5 times in the regular season, 4 plus the play-in.
Yes.
Then a 6-game playoff series, so that's 11. They've already met 4 times this year. We're guaranteed at least 4 playoff games, of course. That would be 19 meetings in the last 2 years between these two franchises.
It's kind of like your Bulls and Heat over there. Seemed like they were playing every other night.
So it's got to be a rivalry. It has to be.
I think so.
It has to be. Look, here it is.
19 times in 2 years has got to be close to some sort of record.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, they played 15 times, according to Eric Name, who we'll have on the show on Friday. He's our Bucks writer at The Athletic.
And they're guaranteed, of course, at least 4.
Yeah, so they played 15 times over the last 16 months.
That's got to be more than rivalry at this point in time.
I'm loving it.
Well, yeah, and honestly, I know rivalry creates the juice, but I think more than that, I think it's just fascinating from a coaching staff standpoint.
I don't know what a rivalry is.
Thanks, Doc.
Oh,
like you've probably thrown a lot at Giannis. They've probably thrown a lot at you. Like, what wrinkles are left?
And that, to me, is what makes playoff basketball so interesting. And also, it determines your level of stardom if you are a Tyrese Halliburton or a Giannis or, I know Chris Middleton's no longer with the team, but like him as well when he was in the mix. I think you really start to see the levels in between stars and superstars. We call the 1A talent, 1B, all those things get separated because I think we can kind of take it for granted. You can pencil Tyrese Halliburton in for 20 or 12 assists a night. That's really hard to do when you're facing the same team for 2 weeks. And they know all your tendencies. They know what you like to do. They're watching every single film breakdown of you, and you're still able to outsmart them, which, again, to credit to the Pacers, they did by committee last year because, Tyrese was banged up, no Matherin, and they still found ways to adjust in advance. That's what it's all about because it's going to be, a lot of chess being played out there on the basketball court.
All right, it's Fan Morning Show, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Mark, you're the curious type. Anything you need to know about today?
He's got questions.
How about a game?
They've got answers.
Hey, I'm more of a cornhole man myself.
Sports, music, movies.
What?
High fashion.
That Hansel's so hot right now.
And everything in between.
You ever seen a foot with 4 toes?
It's time to get a glimpse into the mind of Mark Dykton.
Stop it, you're scaring me.
It's time for I Gotta Know.
Okay, you punk, I want a good, clean fight. Let's get it on.
All right, so we are a week out from the NFL draft. I don't know if we've mentioned this at all. Does anybody know that the NFL draft's a week away? I don't think we've talked about that enough. Anyway, I was asking Kevin and James in the break. I'm like, actually, I think I'll just save this for I Gotta Know. So obviously, tight end is the big kerfuffle with Colts fans. Are we going to get Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland? Doesn't matter. How much better is Tyler Warren than Colston Loveland? Is it a wash? So my question to you guys is, would you rather Chris Ballard have to trade up to get Tyler Warren, or trade down and get an additional pick and Colston Loveland. So let's say like the Cardinals come a knocking and they have the 16th overall pick. If they come in and say, hey, we want to move up 2 spots, you can have the 16th and we'll give you our 3rd round pick. Is that enough for you to say, okay, let's go get Colston Loveland then? It is similar enough with Loveland and Warren that I'm okay with that.
Kevin started shaking when you mentioned trade back.
We only said 2 spots.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think it's that big of a drop-off, and you get an additional 3rd.
I'm probably a little bit more in that Loveland camp than most. So, yeah, I would be good with that. Again, how high up are you going for Warren? That's probably another factor you would have to have in debating it. But the fact that Loveland, again, from a receiving standpoint, that is his skill set to me, or that's his strength, I should say. That fits exactly what the Colts don't have. I think he could be an important 3rd down piece to you. And, some look at the shoulder injury as a negative. Others might say, hey, you get that shoulder healthy, he becomes a better blocker. So I would go with the Loveland side of it, Mark.
I like that idea, too, only because you don't trade back a whole lot. And this team needs players at a lot of different positions. And if you think Colston Loveland is just as good in his own way as Tyler Warren, and you can get more players to take a shot on, I'm all in for that if you don't have to go way back in the draft to do it.
Well, since I'm the only one here with guts, I'm trading up.
Oh.
Okay, all that trading back stuff.
How far up?
As far as it takes, okay? I am going to go make sure I get the guy I need, and in this case, it's Tyler Warren. We've traded back in the past. It hasn't always been fruitful. Get some skin in the game. This is a different Chris Ballard.
So if you have to trade up, let's just say you have to trade up, like, with the Jets at 7. That's a big jump.
It is a
You're
big
still
jump.
doing that?
What are you giving up?
For the sake of arguing, yes.
Boy, that would be.
What are you giving up?
That would probably.
That'd be crazy. I
that
really
would probably be your
do that.
2nd round pick.
Yeah, I realistically, I would not do that. But I do think that they have to entertain the idea. Like, if he's still there at 12 or something like that, do you entertain moving up a couple of spots to go get him? Because you've seen how it kind of worked out in the past. I mean, we saw it last year. You could have Brock Bowers stay pat, and it didn't work out for you. So
you trade up, but you have a ceiling on how high you're willing to trade
I don't want to get too crazy with it, but in my heart of hearts, in this scenario, I feel like they would trade back. But again, I like arguing, so I'm going to say I'm trading up. For this scenario, count me into trading up.
I just think there's such an emphasis on a 3rd down tight end, like that aspect. Can he impact the game as a pass catcher? Can he impact the game on 3rd down? What can that? I mean, Shane Steichens even said a lot of this stuff on the record. Okay, as much as people debate Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, I think when they talk specifically about like 3rd down pass catcher, I think it's a little bit more in the Loveland camp. Now, 1st and 2nd down and, having a versatile tight end, you'd probably go Warren. But if you want to take it a little further, that's probably why I side with Loveland.
Chris Ballard going to shock the world and not take a tight end at 14. Watch the
boy.
Yeah, probably.
Which again, I wouldn't. It depends. We're gonna probably have our opinions when it comes to that first day chatter. But then if they get a tight end on day 2, I'll be like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, give me the Loveland and the extra pick. All right, this came out like last week, but I was curious about your guys' thoughts. Did you guys see this whole thing about like the dire wolf came back from extinction?
I did see this. It was a Time magazine article about this.
So apparently scientists are like whipping up extinct animals and bringing them back.
Front page of Time, wasn't
it?
it?
Yeah, it was on like an ABC News special and everything. So my question to you guys, which extinct animal do you want to bring back?
Oh, gosh.
Like, remember
the dodo bird.
I was going to say, let's not go down the Jurassic Park rabbit hole, I don't think, but...
I mean, literally, if you brought back a dinosaur, you would make Max Bowen the happiest human being on the face of the earth.
Addison Dykton as well.
I can't believe how much I've had to relearn about dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Every kid loves them. I still have a whole bucket full of nothing but dinosaurs down
now,
in the
where are we at on the pandas? Are we good?
They're still around.
Yeah,
they're not extinct.
We saw them in San Diego Zoo.
But like, is there a certain
DC.
kind? I don't know. Was I imagining things maybe from China?
Well, I mean, they're getting close at times, but I don't think they're extinct anytime.
So we're good on that?
Yeah, we're good on that.
As far as I know, they're still shacking up.
I think it'd be cool if there was a saber-toothed tiger still in the world, don't you think?
Ooh. The woolly mammoth?
I've always been
the woolly mammoth supposedly on the to-do list for the scientists, bringing back the woolly mammoth. I'm like, can you imagine going to the zoo and saying like, well, I don't want to see a hippopotamus now. Let me see the woolly mammoth.
Where is the dire wolf?
I don't know. There's supposedly 2 of them, or maybe 4. I don't know. But I'm like, are they going to be in the zoo? What are we doing with them? We're not releasing them in the wild, are we?
And the distinction with this type of wolf is what?
Just gigantic, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm going off of my Game of Thrones knowledge.
They'd be beyond alpha wolves at this point.
Scientists have created 3 dire wolf pulse by using ancient DNA. I can just see.
We need Mel Kiper Jr. to describe a draft pick next week as a dire wolf.
Yeah, I can see some things going on. Don't clone humans, please. Don't try that.
Well, he did the goats back when I was like a kid. I remember the
Dolly
goat.
the goat.
Yeah. Is that goat still with us? Probably not, right?
That's
probably on someone's plate.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm
That
saying.
got dark in a
I don't know
minute.
how long goats live, but I just remember that was a big thing when I was a kid, and I heard like nothing else happened. So I don't know.
I mean, I'll be a good father. I would say a dinosaur.
Yeah, I should probably say that as well.
The dodo, bro. I don't want dinosaurs to come back and eat me.
Well, can't you get the plant ones?
Isn't there a Canadian
Have you ever seen Jurassic Park?
Isn't there a Canadian Football League team called the Sabercats? You could have a live mascot over on the sideline.
I'm good on that.
All right, the last sports moment you cried over, whether this is a good cry, like a celebratory cry, or a bad cry. What was the last sports moment you cried over?
I'm not even saying this as a joke. I can't remember the last time I cried over a sports event. Maybe that's because I don't love it enough.
Well, you got in the right business then.
Yeah, I got to think about that one. I'll think about like the most emotional I've been, but I'll let you guys go for it. I haven't cried over a game. Maybe that's because I haven't seen. Like if Derrick Rose and the Bulls had won, I probably would have cried then, but that didn't happen. So I had to think about that.
Yeah, I think when Eddie Hamilton beaned me in the butt when I was 6, or when I was in 6th grade, excuse me. Boy, I can still picture him just going like a little bit lower than his normal arm rotation.
That'll get clipped.
Good Lord.
Oh, goodness gracious.
That's where I would go. I mean, I did, get a little, emotional maybe when Tiger won in 2019, but yeah, from a fan standpoint, I can't go. Should I have gotten emotional when Notre Dame made their run last year?
No.
Would you have shed a tear if they had won it? I don't know. I think I'm more of a joyful.
Yes, that's the thing. I've never sadness.
Yeah, but those are tears of joy, right?
Yeah, that's fine. I said good cry or bad cry.
I just feel like, I told you my most painful
I'm not a
experience.
big crier either way, so I would, to answer your question, James, I would probably say no.
Yeah, but I'll go here. The most painful I felt, and I wanted to cry, I probably just couldn't get the tears out. I was so angry. My beef with Darrelle Revis. And
oh, boy.
I've told you all this.
Yes.
Russell Wilson, we still got beef, brother. Why'd you throw the ball at the 1 yard line? I was ready to dance on Darrelle Revis' grave, and I taking a picture with me when I saw him on a field trip. But he gets Super Bowl, and if I ever see him again, he'll get the last laugh because he owned me that day and still does.
Honestly, probably the most emotional I get at a sporting event now is when Taps played the Indianapolis 500 and/or flyover. Yeah, like that general 5 to 10 minute, and I know that's not necessarily maybe a sporting, maybe that's not what you're talking about, Mark, but just that general pre-race pageantry.
That's good stuff.
At the very least, it gets the hair on the neck standing straight.
Any tears are good tears with this question.
Yeah.
So since the heart attack, I'm not going to lie to you guys, tears of joy, I don't like cry, but my eyes will well up like when I'm watching an American athlete, get on the podium and get a gold medal. With some great story in the background of overcoming all kinds of odds. I like to see people excel and reach their dreams. And again, it's not like a cry, but yeah, my eyes have gotten a little wet.
You be boo-hooing. That's okay.
Like that, man.
Let those tears out, Jeff.
My eyes welled up a little bit when the Cubs won the World Series. I was like, okay, this is like generational.
Man, y'all
I never thought I'd see
on
that.
this radio show lying. Mark was crying. He was thanking Jesus.
I was hauling ass to this building because of the rain delay. And I'm like, I don't want to miss this, so I had to run in. And then I saw it. I was like, okay.
Perfect Cubs ending, though. They made you wait a little bit longer through that rain delay.
The whole time I thought they were losing that game anyway, too. So I was already pissed off. I was like, what are we doing here?
I'll throw Giannis out there real quick in 2021 when he won a championship. Because I've read, Miriam Fader has a book on him, and I read it. It's like his life story. Giannis literally came from nothing. Like, you see the way he plays, and I get it. Yeah. Patience might not like him. He can be a lot, and he is a lot. But when you understand where he comes from, like little like dirt floors and beat all odds, scored 50 points in a closeout game to win your first championship in 50 years. I was like, that is a pretty emotional moment right there. So, yeah, shout out to Giannis. That was a crazy, crazy series.
People are chiming in. I get pissed but not crying over sports as a grown man. Someone said, Taps is very emotional, right, Kevin? Someone says, I cry when I watch Purdue play football. I cried when Duke beat UNLV. It might be. I cried when the Colts lost to the Saints in the Super Bowl because I was at that game. So, yeah, getting a lot of chime-ins.
12-year-old me cried when Notre Dame got obliterated by Alabama. You weren't the only one crying, brother. There were some weird things going on that year in Notre Dame sports. Sorry,
I cried
KB.
when Ole Miss won the College World Series, almost ran naked around the neighborhood.
Strays. Come on, James.
I will say, respect to him for bouncing back. But, man, at the time, I was like, there is no way you are the best player in college football, and you got catfished. Lord knows what I'd be doing if I was that famous at that age.
That was a hell of a documentary, though, on Netflix, if you haven't watched it yet.
It was good to watch.
Lived a bit of a sheltered life.
A lot of a sheltered
Clearly.
life. Yeah. All right, let's check it down real quick before we get to Dane Brugler from the Beast and the Athletic coming up in just a moment here.
Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Butler Bulldogs Basketball. 2025-26 season tickets are on sale now. Registration for iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse premium seats runs through May 31st. Don't miss Hinkle Magic. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
All right, we'll go through this very quickly. NBA play-in games last night. The Heat stay alive with a win over the Chicago Bulls, 109-90. The Dallas Mavericks stay alive in the West. They defeated the Sacramento Kings by a score of 120-106. That means Friday night, Miami plays at Atlanta for the final playoff spot in the East, and Dallas will visit Memphis for the final playoff spot out there. Last night, Indy 11 with a 1-0 win over Miami FC over at Carroll Stadium in the 123rd minute. The Mad Ants have officially become the Noblesville Boom, Kevin. I love that story.
Somebody's looking down, smiling at that one. Boom, baby. Anytime you can honor Slick, I love it. Hope Nancy is doing great and very fitting. Michael Grady on the call for game 1 to bring it full circle here coming up on Saturday at 1 o'clock.
All right, Purdue has added a point guard, Omar Meyer from Israel, a forward, Liam Murphy from North Florida. Meanwhile, Indiana goes to a 6'6 forward, Josiah Miles, also from North Florida. And Tatten Connerway also coming to Indiana. Any thoughts on those guys, JB?
Not too much, but I mean, again, we just have to see it in action, and does it translate, particularly for Indiana, into success, and can it be sustainable and just, usher in a new era of basketball?
All right, baseball last night. The Padres over the Cubs by a score of 4-2. The Reds drop a game to the Seattle Mariners 5-3. The Indians win in 12 against the Toledo Mud Hens. They will play again tonight at 6:35. Dane Brugler from The Athletic, The Beast, and all things NFL Draft. Next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Fort Minor stuff, one of my all-time faves. This got to be everybody's favorite, right? One of their favorites?
This song?
Yeah.
I mean, this was like NBA Live 2006 on PS2, baby.
Yeah, I was going to go. We're leading into ESPN playoffs here.
Yeah.
This will be game one, Pacers-Bucks coming up Saturday. Or maybe it's Dane Brugler's walk-up song.
Oh,
it could be.
I like that. Go ahead and introduce him, KB. He's here.
The great, the legend. You hear him in the combine with us. He's very gracious with his time with us at various points throughout the draft calendar. I'd like to hope he's had a moment of rest, but he's probably doing a million radio segments here over the past few days. So we're, again, very appreciative of his time. The great Dane Brugler, NFL draft analyst from The Athletic, with us here. Dane, good morning to you, and congratulations.
Hey, good morning, guys. I appreciate the kind words. It feels good to have the beast out there, share it with everybody. The feedback's been awesome, especially, the resources we put behind it this year to make it more interactive on the website. There's still the PDF if you want to download it that way, but the interactive version on the Athletic website is just really awesome. The navigation's easy. 2,600 players, 400 reports, like all that good stuff, all the good background information, the draft nuggets, the testing information. So, the feedback's been awesome, and hopefully, people haven't checked it out yet. Hopefully they do. It's the must-have, one-stop shop draft guide for everything that's going on next weekend.
It looks incredible. Cannot endorse it more from a digital standpoint, and just the look and, like you said, the accessibility of it. Can I get a word count?
I'll tell you this. We do everything over Google Docs, and we found out that apparently Google Docs has a limit. It's 1 million characters. We were about 75% through the beast when we hit that mark, and so we had to open up a separate Google Doc for offense and defense and kind of split it up that way, which kind of sums up how extensive this thing is.
Wow, you're a freak. Unbelievable.
He is,
and that's the best compliment in the world.
I'm telling you, man. I just picture Dane sitting in like his office or somewhere, no lights, clicker, tape, and he does that, and he emerges, gives us the beast, and goes back down.
The old school tape, right?
Yeah. Somebody asked me the other day, like, what I can't wait to do in May, and I said it's just go outside. I mean, just kind of be part of society again.
There's
just,
the
that
sun.
That sounds nice.
He's going to start presenting it like Musafa presenting his son moving forward.
I mean, look, on a more serious note, the great debate here, as you know, Dan, I talked to you about this at the Combine, is tight end. Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland. Just give us your take on the two and where you would lean if both are available at 14.
Yeah, and I get the debate because if you draft a tight end with a top of the first round type of resource, are you going to utilize him enough to make sure that you're warranted to pick? And so obviously that's a part of the play calling, part of the decision making process. Like let's add another playmaker, but let's make sure that we're going to use him in the right way. And Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, both these guys have shown that they can be used in a variety of ways, up and down the line of scrimmage, a lot of versatility. They're not just hand on the ground tight ends. They can be that, even if maybe that's not the best thing that they do. But you want them in the backfield, you want them in the slot. You can line them up out wide, and they'd be just fine. Tyler Warren, I think, is for me, they graded very similar. I gave the edge to Tyler Warren just because of proven durability. Production is hard to ignore. Like there's just he's a more fully formed football player. Where Colston Loveland, there's a lot to like about the upside. If I'm going to chase the upside, I'm going with Colston Loveland. I think he's the better high-end athlete. What he can do down the seam, what he can do at the catch point, after the catch. He's also banged up a lot this year, and so you do take that into account, especially when you think about like a guy like Dalton Kincaid, who the Bills drafted in the first round 2 years ago, who was viewed as, all right, well, this is going to elevate the Bills' offense, and then that's just not what has happened at all. And part of that is injuries. He's been banged up, and how that's affected him. Tight end's traditionally a position that takes time to adjust to the NFL game. So, for all those reasons, I would lean Tyler Warren, but I also don't think Tyler Warren's getting out of the top 10. I think the Jets at 7, the Bears at 10. One of those spots is kind of where he's going to end up. And then will Loveland still be there when the Colts are picking there at 14? And if he is,
Do they love him enough to take him? That'll be the big debate. I didn't think Brian Thomas Jr. would get past the Colts last year in the first round, and he did. So, who knows with Colson Loveland this year?
All right, so Dane, go ahead.
That's great. Dane Brugler right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. Again, NFL draft analyst from The Athletic. Dane, let's play out this hypothetical of tight end in round 1 or round 2. And by that, I mean this. I also think the Colts have a need on the offensive line, particularly right guard is an open starting job. D-line could use another body. In this year's draft, do you think it's smarter to go tight end at 14 and then come back with the trench pick in round 2? Or would you rather go trench pick in round 1, come back, maybe go, I don't know if Mason Taylor would be there at 45, but then dip into the tight end draft depth at 45?
I'm a big believer in drafting not targeting a position in the first round, targeting the best player. Especially if you're picking at 27, that's maybe a little bit different. But theoretically, hopefully there's a first round graded player on your board when you're picking 14. This draft's a little bit lighter in terms of those first round grades. Some teams only have 10 to 12. Other teams see 15, 16. I'm not sure where the Colts are in Chris Ballard, but hopefully there is a first round grade on your board sitting there at 14, and that might limit your options, but I'd rather take the first round player than a second round graded player. So I think going with the better player is the best way to go, but theoretically, to your point, I think it would be maybe a little bit easier to find. If you want an interior lineman, I think that you probably have a better bet of finding that guy in the second round, whether that's Tate Ratledge from Georgia, who I think is a really good player. I think he'd be a really good fit with the Colts at that point. If they did wait on tight end, this is a decent tight end class. It's a pretty good group. And so Elijah Arroyo in the second round, I'd be shocked if Mason Taylor made it to them in the second round, but still Elijah Arroyo would be a good pick. In the third round with Harold Fannin Jr. and if you want to go Gunnar Helm in the third, fourth round range, there's a lot of tight end options that you don't have to force that pick in the first round. But I would say in the first round, I think you need to make sure you're getting an impact player, whether that's on the offensive line, tight end, wherever. Just make sure you're getting an impact guy.
Dane Brugler, The Athletic, joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline, talking about the draft coming up a week from tonight. There's always twists and turns, and it gets crazy, but how crazy do you think it could get in front of the Colts at 14 this year?
Oh, it'll definitely be crazy because we have a good idea how the first 4 or 5 picks will play out, and then that second tier of players is really there's a lot of different opinions about just who's in that group, the order of that group. I'm fascinated to see how many quarterbacks go before the Colts. Obviously, if you're Indianapolis, you want to see 3 quarterbacks off the board by the time you're picking, just to push better players down to you. But there's a very realistic chance that there's 1 quarterback off the board, and that's Cam Ward to the Titans at number 1. And then it becomes, all right, we're on Shador watch, and where does he end up? There's a good chance he falls to the 20s, and the Steelers at 21, or a team trading up into the 20s to go get him. And so it'll be the quarterback musical chairs will be kind of the talk of the first round this year, and it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out.
Dan, I want to go here for a second. We talked about the beast. Can you give some context as to how much work goes into it? And I say that because I get it, and I just control F and I go through and find the players I'm looking for, or I'll scroll and I'll read. I don't know if I read the entire beast because I'd be reading for days, but how does the process start, and is it like an ongoing thing? Have you already started on 2026?
Yeah, I have and it happens organically because, I'm talking to a scout, talking to a coach, talking to a player, and inevitably a player for next year comes up. So, I'm taking notes and about, hey, okay, I need to watch this guy, and I'll try to get eyes on him, watch the tape. And it's a full year-round project. It really is. It's a living document that constantly updating, constantly improving. And, my job is I feel like there's all these puzzle pieces out there. My job is to collect as many puzzle pieces to make a more clear picture of who each one of these players are, and just what. So if you know nothing about the player, if you read his write-up in the Beast, the background, the testing, the stats, the analysis, strengths, weaknesses, the overall, the projection, all of that. Even if you know nothing about the player, by reading it from the Beast, you have a more clear picture of, oh, okay, I understand who this player is. I understand why the Colts drafted him, why he might fit us. And so that's kind of how I attack it. And, I really don't have a set number of I'm going to do this number of players. I just do the work, and we end up where we end up, and try to make the process better every year. But yeah, I think this is the biggest beast we've done, and very proud how it turned out.
So one quick follow up just to that, Dane. I asked that question because I was going through it, and I mentioned Demetrius Knight Jr. as a potential Colts target, and you had in there that he is related to Gladys Knight and Aretha Franklin. So, are you a private investigator? Like, how do you find this out? Like, what? How?
You don't want Dane Brugler knocking on your door. Is what you're saying.
Just like how?
That's part of being a scout is you have to be part detective, part psychologist, part reporter. You have to wear all these hats to find out on all the information. And really, some of this is online. Some of this is schools will do write-ups on players, all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it's just talking to the player. Sometimes scouts will tip me off about a little nugget here or there. A scout tipped me off in the fall about Nazir Stackhouse, defensive tackle for Georgia, who battles narcolepsy, and how unique that is for a player to, if he falls asleep in meetings, it just kind of happens. There are times late in games where he wishes he could have taken a nap. It's just something that he battles and something that's really unique you don't hear about very often.
Dane Brugler with us here again. The beast is absolutely incredible. The Draft Encyclopedia doesn't do it justice to just label it like that. But Dane is with us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Last one for me, local angle. Purdue is awful at football, but Marcus Bowe is a name it sounds like could be called here, maybe even day 2 as an offensive lineman. Your thoughts on him, and then Curtis Rourke, pretty impressive story and what he was able to do in helping Indiana get to the playoff.
Yeah, and Rourke, it's finally good to see him, out and about since the ACL surgery. I think we'd be talking more about him if he were healthy during the process, with East West Shrine and the combine and all the workouts and stuff. But he's been sidelined with that ACL. But yeah, you don't want to take away what he did this year. Not the most fleet of foot or mobile athlete, but he works well from the pocket. He's tough. He will push the ball downfield. So I think he'll be drafted and have a chance to stick. With Marcus Bowe, yeah, you love the versatility that he offers because he played right guard, played right tackle. Some teams believe his best position will be inside at center. He loved the movement skills, moves really well in space. Big question will be just does he have the power to hold up? Can he be consistent with the technique? The comp that I gave to him was Zach Tom, the versatile offensive lineman for the Packers, who does a lot of different things from tackle to guard to center. And Marcus Bowe could potentially be that guy, likely somewhere on day 2 if he's available, in that early 3rd round range. I think that's most likely where he'll end up.
Always good to talk to you, Dane. Thanks so much for spending your time with us. And we know you're limited on time, so we truly do appreciate that.
Great work, Dane. Congrats.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Anytime.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon. And he will be on almost every radio station in America between now and next Thursday, don't you think?
Absolutely. But I just found that fascinating. He's like, you got to be a scout, a psychiatrist, a psychologist. I don't know what word he used specifically, but somewhere in the mental health range. And I feel like, again, KB, if he's knocking on your door, it's for great things or bad things, because everything is in there. And to be fair, that includes your missteps off the field and things like that. So there's been players, I won't name any of them, but there's been times I've looked up players and I'm like, oh, man, like the Colts probably won't touch that.
Yeah, and I would just add this. It's probably for a bigger segment. I don't know if we can do it to round out the show, but maybe even tomorrow. It gets you thinking with Anthony Richardson, James. Through 2 years, have the Colts missed more on the field or more off the field with him?
We can dive into that after the break.
Actually, I like the idea of getting more into that tomorrow because we're going to have a short break coming up in a minute. We'll do the Jiffy Lube Super Stat, get you ready to go for the day, and you do have to hear what one college football head coach had to say about the possibility of paying a player a ton of money. It's coming up next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
This Childish Gambino? Freaks and Geeks?
Yep.
Man, what a pull, Mark. This is like my high school days right here.
Good stuff.
I'll play this in the car on the way back. What a banger.
Like it. All right, I got one more family 4-pack of Indy 11 tickets for Saturday's game against the Charlotte Battery, the Charleston Battery, coming up on Saturday night. Looking forward to that. And 239-1070, get on the phone right now, and we will get you hooked up with that. In the meantime, James Boyd, I believe we have a Jiffy Lube super stat of the day today.
That we do.
Courtesy of Scott Johnston.
Pull it back up. Here is the Jiffy Lube stat of the day. The NBA play-in tournament wraps up tomorrow night, and then it's on to the playoffs. Over the past 6 seasons, 6 different teams have won the championship. The streak began with the Raptors in 2019, followed by the Lakers, Bucks, Warriors, Nuggets, and Celtics. However, never in NBA history has there been 7 different franchises winning the championship over a 7-year span. And I would say it's possible to happen again because OKC is really good. The Cavaliers are really good. I know the Celtics are trying to go back-to-back, but, man, what a pull, Scotty. I would have never guessed that.
He's good at that stuff.
Parody, baby, parody.
We've all been talking about how crazy the transfer portal is getting, and especially NIL in college football, $4 million contracts for a quarterback down at Miami, and we all saw what happened in Tennessee this past week. One of the more entertaining head coaches to listen to all the time, Syracuse head coach Fran Brown. He was asked about a wide receiver on his team, how he'd react if that wide receiver wanted $2 million per season to come play at his program. And I thought his response yesterday was just outstanding. Here's Fran Brown, Syracuse head coach.
With all due respect to everybody in the country, to every wide receiver, to everybody that's doing all this stuff, like, if you want to make $2 million at wide receiver, that's to blow a homie over at Ohio State. Ain't nobody else making that money. Giving a wide receiver no $2 million, man, in college. Nah, that ain't me. I ain't doing that. I can't do it. Unless they tell me that we get a chance to have Travis Hunter, he could come back to college and he could come here and play for us, then he gonna get some of my check. But I ain't paying nobody $2,000 this year. Not to me. $2 million, whatever. I just say, yeah, we ain't giving nobody that.
I like the refreshing honesty just right out of the gate, Kevin Bowen. I need more of that from head coaches.
I love 2 things. A, I love the candor. B, I love the with all due respect. You know?
Yeah, I always say that when I'm going to just straight disrespect the person right after.
I've done this many times. Hell, I've probably done it to you guys. I know I've done it in the YouTube chat. Whenever I say respectfully, then I can say anything, right?
Yeah.
Respectfully, kiss my ass, you know, and then I can kind of move on from there.
That's basically what he told Trevor Pena.
So Trevor's resume here, 84 catches for 941 last year, 9 touchdowns, notable. He didn't have a catch the year prior. He had 22 for 203 the year prior to that. I think Fran Brown might be onto something. Having said that, the market is the market, man, and people are just ready to spend and spend, and they're desperate. I mean, that's the thing. Desperation leads to just insane value, and Fran Brown's job security and he had a really nice year 1.
Yeah, he did.
With Syracuse.
10-3, I believe?
Yeah. So he just he's not in a corner like some other coaches potentially are, and they're going to do things that, he might deem as crazy.
I had to listen to that like 4 times last night. That was just outstanding.
Yeah, I appreciate when any coach says the quiet part out loud.
So how much is Jeremiah Smith getting?
He's probably getting somewhere in that range. He's that good, though.
I told you. Someone messaged me, the kid for the sharpshooter going to IU is getting $2.8 million.
Well, I think
Lamar Wilkerson.
Basketball is a little bit different than football as far as, resource. Maybe you invest more because they can stay longer. I don't know, but
Wilkerson's only there for 1 year.
Yeah, but point being, Jeremiah Smith can pretty much ask for whatever he wants. He's the best wide receiver in the country, and he's, 19?
So do we tease the Richardson thing for tomorrow? Was that a bad tease by me?
No, I think that's because I think it is going to take some time. I think that it's good to drill down on. I think that's fantastic. Because ask the question again, almost tease for tomorrow. I thought it was
we just
fantastic.
had Dane Brugler on. Mark will have that up on the podcast. Again, great insight. And, James, you asked him in a couple of different ways, like you're a private investigator with some of this stuff. And that is a huge part of the draft process. So, having said that, through 2 years of Anthony Richardson's career, would you say the Colts have missed more on the field with him or more on the field with him? And when I say missed, I mean the evaluation.
On or off the field?
On or off the field. Nothing like a 21-hour tease.
No, but I don't think it was a 3 or 4 minute topic, though, is my point.
No,
I think it's fantastic.
I wholeheartedly understand why we're waiting until tomorrow. I just hope we all remember it tomorrow.
That's 21 hours from now, Kevin. What are you talking about? Great job again today, guys. Mark, fantastic work on the ones and twos and the music all day again today. We've got Jay coming your way from noon to 3 again today.